You'd need a microscope to locate them.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 10 o'clock. The UK is sending more support to Libya, including emergency shelter, solar lanterns and water filters. The Foreign Office says an emergency medical team will be deployed to carry out rapid medical assessments on the ground. Reports this evening are saying rescuers are working through rubble by hand, hoping to find a girl trapped beneath a collapsed building. Peter Millett, who was the British ambassador to the country between 2015 and 2018, says the nature of how Libya operates could also have claimed many lives.
I've seen a lot of reports saying there was confusion before the storm reached Derna. It was predictable that it was going to dump huge amounts of rain. And confusion as to whether people should stay or be evacuated. That confusion, I think, has led to far larger numbers of casualties than could have been the place.
The comedian Russell Brand has strongly denied accusations of rape, sexual assaults and emotional abuse made by 4 women. They allege this happened over a 7-year period at the height of his fame. The claims have been made in a joint investigation by the Sunday Times and Channel 4. In a video released online, Mr. Brand says his relationships have always been consensual. A man's died after the collapse of a wall at a house in Manchester. Police there say he was in his 40s and died at the scene after a workplace accident this afternoon at an address on Lloyd Street. The president of a body representing independent retailers says many of his members feel unsafe because of the high number of thefts and verbal abuse in shops. The Federation of Independent Retailers claims 850 incidents are taking place every day, a rise of 25% in the past year. It's blaming the cost of living crisis and some young people filming the abuse for TikTok. Montazir Deposi, who's the Federation's president, has told LBC it's a big problem.
Our retailers across the UK, they're in a situation where, we feel very unsafe now. And this used to be at one point our safe environment. We come out of the house and we're actually thinking, will we be coming back? And that shouldn't be happening to anyone.
And forecasters say almost a month's worth of rain could fall in parts of the UK tomorrow. Thunderstorms are expected to hit the southwest of England and also South Wales. The Met Office has issued a yellow weather warning. So LBC weather, clear spells in the south this evening, but remaining cloudy elsewhere, and heavy showers overnight in southwest England with a low of 5 degrees. From Global's newsroom, for LBC, I'm Tim Daly.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Oh, hello there. Very nice to meet you.
Well, let's get back to it.
There's a weather warning. There's always a bloomin' weather warning these days.
Warning, warning.
It's unprecedented. There's going to be thunder, lightning, very, very frightening.
Rock and roll!
It's a weather warning has been issued by the Met Office. They said,
Emergency, everybody to get from street. Emergency, everybody
to get from street. Okay, some texts and tweets and such from last night's phone-tastrophe. If you haven't heard last night's phone-tastrophe, then it is available as a podcast on the World Wide Web. If you've got one of them stupid smart speakers, then the magic phrase is, "Oi, play Nick Abbot the Whole Show podcast, or I'll bury you in the garden." Some texts and tweets from last night. Jonathan in Harrow says the following. This is a very, very important message. I want you to pay close attention to this. He says, UK situation makes worse by wokey political correctness, can't say nothing, stayed in Mayfair expansive hotels when country better now situation. Well, I'm certainly glad that you passed that thought on, Jonathan. You're making a lot of sense. Couldn't have said it better myself. Wokey political correctness.
Okie dokie.
Chris says, loving the show tonight, as in last night. HS2 at the current rate of shrinkage. HS2 will probably end up being a mile long. Could we invest the 33 billion and rising in national infrastructure for electric cars instead? Well, let me think about that.
No.
No, absolutely, because that would make sense. HS2 will never, ever, ever, ever reach central London under proposals to scale back the project drawn up by Downing Street and the Treasury.
What?
It's supposed to be the rail line that connects the Midlands and the North to London, and then onwards to the... Ew. And it's not only not joining together the major cities outside London, it's not even going all the way to London itself.
Oh, fabulous.
I can't believe it. This is a report from the Super Soaraway Times. The Times understands that as well as scrapping the northern part of HS2, that's going to link Birmingham with Manchester, wherever that is, the Prime Minister is also looking at ending the line before it gets to Euston. It's going to go from nowhere to nowhere. Only in this country could we fashion this kind of disaster for this kind of money. I am stunned. So not only is it not going to link Birmingham and Manchester, but it's also not going to link Birmingham or Manchester with London. It's not going to go to Euston. That was the plan initially, which is itself the wrong station for any line to end at. I travelled from Euston just the other day, and I can say without a shadow of a doubt, it's the worst railway station I've ever been in. The worst by a country mile. I mean, it would be embarrassing for a business person from the to come here and have to schlep all the way over to Euston. I mean, imagine if they actually made the mistake of staying in a hotel near Euston.
Disgusting.
Oh, they'd never come here again. They'd say, right, that's it, I'm leaving, in French. Which would probably sound like, they're inviting you over for drinks, whispering sweet nothing in your ear. They go. God, it's actually like a French person just walked into the room there, wasn't it?
No.
So it's going to go to Euston, which is the wrong station, because Euston does not connect with the rest of Europe. Because a business person, if they came down from Birmingham or Manchester, if they managed to find out some way of getting on a train that doesn't either go from the centre of Birmingham or Manchester down to London, and they arrived at Euston, which was the original plan, they'd have to get out of this hellhole that is the Euston railway station and then drag their wheelie case all the way down the most choked and polluted road in London to King's Cross, where they can then get on a train that will get them to Europe, where a market of 450 million people are situated. I mean, honestly, can we do anything right in this country that is not associated with a royal funeral?
No.
So instead of terminating at London Euston, which is the wrong station anyway, trains are now going to stop at Old Oak Common. Where's that? It's 6 miles away. Fishy says that the move will save at least £4.8 billion, and the government estimates that is the cost that it would take to upgrade Euston, to take the additional HS2 trains and link it to the line which is being built, HS2. 4.8 billion. I mean, you'd imagine that somebody would have thought of this before they spent over half the entire budget of the NHS on one railway line. Fishy Sunak seriously needs to maintain a grip on it.
I'm gripping it.
He is actually gripping it already. This is what it looks like when he's on top of things. Ending HS2 at Old Oak Common, wherever that is, would mean that passengers would have to get out there and then board another train on the Elizabeth line that will take them into central London, and then they'll have to switch trains again to get to Europe. I mean, it's like we've got a clown in charge of the infrastructure in this country. A drunk clown.
Booze.
I mean, they'd also have to learn the name of a place they'd never heard of before, Old Oak Common. I mean, can you imagine in France a line constructed to join Paris and Calais, say, that doesn't actually go to Paris? I mean, it's inconceivable. You get off the train at Pontieux and think, where the hell am I? French people are nuts. Well, it's not happening in France. It is, of course, happening here. What is now possibly the world's most expensive railway ever built goes from Birmingham to Old Oak Common. And Old Oak Common is apparently a semi-industrial area between Harlesden and Acton. Doesn't that sound nice?
No.
Good grief. And I had to look that up, because I'd never heard of it before. And I've been living in London for 45 years. Old Oak Common, completely new to me, as it will be to any business person from either the EU or Birmingham. I mean, the other thing, of course, is that the line doesn't actually start in the centre of Birmingham, where a business person might expect to join it, but some way out of the centre. And it was supposed to join Manchester, but that's out too. And yet the government seems to be able to spend £100 billion on a train to nowhere from nowhere. I'm not making that up. And that's not the final bill. That's just what it's cost us at the moment. £100 billion. And when the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, was asked politely if the line was ever going to be finished, he waved the question away with an imperious air and announced that he wasn't going to be drawn on details. Details? Where a £100 billion railway line ends is a mere detail. But, of course, it's all perfectly normal in a well-run country. I mean, you really couldn't make this stuff up. A confederacy of dunces is what we've got running the show here. I'm amazed that this country still exists. Sean texts, these are texts and tweets from last night. Sean, we were talking about dogs quite a lot. He says, why not make it compulsory that these dogs, these devil dogs, have their teeth removed? After all, they don't really need them. And dogs live longer with their teeth removed. Is that true? Well, I think their owners would probably live longer if they removed their dog's teeth. Oh, God, I am so sick of people saying, oh, but they're so lovely with kids. They're so gentle. Morons. Like filling the newspapers today with pictures of this dog that looks like it could swallow a child whole, cuddling up to some baby in a cot, crying out loud. What is wrong with people? Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen in the future, you idiots. And I mean that in a positive and constructive way. I'm just trying to be nice. Sonia texts, apropos of what happened on this show last night, which is a phone-tastrophe, by the way. So, and it didn't happen to anybody else, did it? It just happened to me, is that right? Just us, yeah. Never mind about us. Me. I don't mean this to sound selfish, but it's me. That's a line from Absolutely Fabulous. Not my material. Sonia says, do you think the government have shut down your phones because you are making fun of their priorities?
It's the country's number one priority. It's my number one priority up and down the country, and that will be our focus.
He's gripping it. Somebody should have checked beforehand whether, before they made him say the word priority quite so often, whether he could actually say it without sounding silly. It's my number one priority. He's the Prime Minister of this country. Can you believe that?
No.
No. We're still stunned. I mean, my head is still spinning from the previous one.
Absolutely.
Caroline says, like attracts like. Aggressive people like aggressive dogs. It's an anthropomorphic nightmare. Stop the idiots, says Caroline. Anthropomorphic nightmare. That's what Caroline says. And she spelt it right, too. Mark says, how come speed limits are dropping to 20 mile an hour, but XL bullies can run at 25 mile an hour? I guess that's one way to get the NHS waiting lists down. Well, that's very bad taste, but yeah, I suppose that's right. And apropos of nothing at all, I looked at the Mail Online today, and there were two stories side by side. One of them was motorists whining and complaining that they're having to drive at 20 miles an hour here, there and everywhere.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
I mean, seriously, will you people just stop complaining? British motorists say they've been brought to their knees by... brought to their knees in their cars, which is a pretty neat trick if you can do it. I mean, that would have to be some sort of yoga-type bending to be able to get to your knees in your own car. You'd have to be facing backwards. It says British motorists say they've been brought to their knees by dogmatic councils and woke government officials. Woke. I mean, who writes this stuff? Woke government officials who have stealthily brought 20-mile-an-hour zones into their neighbourhoods, driving up the cost of motoring and causing journey times to swell. Who in any urban area can drive at more than 20 mile an hour? Even if the speed limit was 70, you still would be driving at 20 mile an hour. What are these people talking about? What the hell's it got to do with being woke?
Okie dokie.
It ain't got nothing to do with the wokey-cokey. Representatives of the Alliance of British Drivers. Well, that sounds pretty suspicious for a start, doesn't it? The Alliance of British Drivers. Who are they? They've accused authorities of weaponising safety. Blooming safety. Who needs it, eh? Representative of the Alliance of British Drivers. I've never heard of them. Who are they? Do they reside in Tufton Street by any chance? They've accused authorities of weaponising safety fears to shut down debate and said it's laughable that under new regulations, 15-mile-an-hour capped e-scooters are faster around cities than cars. How can they be? Cars drive at 20, e-scooters drive at 15 mile an hour by their own statement. 15 is a smaller number than 20. However, pro-slow activists, 20's plenty for us, that's the name of the pro-slow activists, have called for more local authorities to follow suit and welcome the news that 28 million Brits now live in areas with 20-mile-an-hour zones. These are the same people that were complaining, and I believe the story is still up on the Mail website. Oh, hang on a minute. Whoa, that's my dinner backing up on me.
Disgusting.
Oh, awful. They were complaining on the website there that they woke up one morning just as the sun was rising.
Rock and roll!
And found that the council had put bollards up on the pavement outside their homes. And they were pictured, looking sad next to the bollards. Can you look sad for us, mate? Take your top off, love, while you're doing it. Look a bit mournful, can you? Said the photographers, no doubt. And so there they were outside their homes looking sad behind a bollard. And the reason that the council had put the bollards up is because the homes are next to a school, and in order to swerve around the traffic jams from parents dropping their little Jocasters at school, people were actually driving on the pavement.
What?
And so the council put bollards up to stop drivers speeding down the pavement near a school, and people were complaining about that. Yeah, hey, people.
Stop whining.
From next week, says the Mail, the default speed limit in Labour-run Wales, activist enemy of the people Wales, in residential and built-up areas will drop from 30 to 20. You know what? No, it won't. Not unless there's a speed camera there to stop people, to catch people at it. And even if there is a speed camera there, they'll only slow down for those lines on the road after a speed camera, and then they'll speed back up again. You know they will. Morons. We're surrounded by morons. So from next week, the default speed limit in Labour-run Wales in residential and built-up areas will drop from 30 to 20, despite heavy opposition from a very few number of people who shout really loudly. Because that's what that's what's happening in this country now, that we just follow whoever shouts the loudest. A lot of people who are shouting really loudly, who no doubt are completely unconnected with the oil industry. I bet they're receiving no money at all from oil industries. Despite heavy opposition and projections, the scheme will cost the country's economy £9 billion over 30 years, which is just a number that they just plucked out of the air. 9 billion, they said. Well, they started with one.
And one.
And then got to two.
Two.
And then they just plucked the number.
6 million.
6 million, 9 million, sure. 6 million, turn 6 upside down and what do you got? That's how they came up with 9 million. In London, fresh off the back of his controversial ULEZ expansion, Labour Mayor Sadiq Khan Also announced plans to make 140 miles of London's main roads 20-mile-an-hour zones. And all that whining was right next to a story that says Lance Stroll suffers massive crash during the qualifying round at a Singapore Grand Prix with his Aston Martin car left in pieces. Well, it wouldn't have been left in pieces if he'd been doing 20 mile an hour, would it? Bloomin' speed freaks. Who do you think he is? Sterling Moss?
This is LBC. This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
And I can't stand him.
0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Maidenhead. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Nick.
Paul.
What do you want to talk about?
You got to the end of this to pick a subject.
Well,
I'm not sure that well is a subject.
No.
Second chance.
NHS.
You want to talk about the NHS?
Yeah.
Go on then. Dogs.
Yeah.
Now you're just throwing random words at me.
Okay. Dogs are good. I love them. I train them.
Right. Dogs are good.
Right.
Ebenezer good.
Ebenezer is a brilliant tune.
Yeah. Bang in.
But,
yes?
Yeah. But the NHS, I haven't got my prescription for 2 weeks.
Haven't you? Okay, well, watch for it at your door. It'll be popping through your letterbox any moment now. Thanks a lot, Paul. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. Like it has anything to do with me. He hasn't got his prescription for 2 weeks. What's it got to do with me? Elaine texts, why are you so unpatriotic? I am looking forward to eating cold dog food from the tin while wearing a barrel held up with braces, says Elaine. Well, that, I would imagine, is in many of our futures. Naz texts, best way to stop the boats is to fill the English Channel with sharks. Thanks. No, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Naz. Keep thinking. And Sue says, if Liz Truss is writing a book about her very brief term as PM, do you think that failure is now the new success?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Let's have Belsize Park. Judy.
Hello again.
Judy.
About HS2.
Yeah.
Sorry, am I echoing? Because I've got a speakery thing on my phone.
No.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm on a landline.
Right.
Right, we've discussed all this ad nauseum about this HS2.
Yeah, I'm sick of discussing it as ad nauseum.
Well, you've just said it's cost 100 billion so far.
100 billion pounds.
Right.
Yeah.
I can resolve not spending very much money in the future. Here's my idea.
Mm-hmm.
I've done research for you.
Yes.
It's going from Old Oak Common...
Yeah, wherever that is.
Wherever that is, to Curzon Street.
Wherever that is.
Wherever that is. So I'm thinking, instead of spending another farthing, we find out, we do a survey, how many people in this country have a desire to travel from Old Oak Common to Curzon Street, which is somewhere near Birmingham.
Right.
Or near New Street,
yes.
which is not New Street. Okay.
Exactly, yeah.
And we send all those people who have a need or desire to go specifically from Old Oak Common to Curzon Street in a chauffeur-driven limousine.
Limousine, right, a Rolls-Royce.
Yes, if you like. And that saves building the train.
That's a very good idea.
And we won't have to spend anything more, not one single penny.
No. I mean, imagine how many Rolls Royces you could buy for 100 billion pounds. I mean, we could pretty much give one to everybody.
But so now we've only just started your programme.
Yeah.
We could have a little survey of anybody who is phoning you about whatever they're phoning about. If they have a need or desire to travel from Old Oak Common to Curzon Street, the country will pay them to have a chauffeur-driven Rolls-Royce.
Yeah. And we'll give them a cup of tea and a sandwich to boot.
Yes. And how much do you reckon that would cost?
Practically nothing at all, because there isn't anybody that wants to go from Curzon Street to Old Oak Common at all. No one.
No. So, what? Can I ask a really stupid question?
Of course.
what are we building the thing for?
I don't know. But if it costs £100 billion and it hasn't been finished yet, my question is, as with much else that has happened over the last 13 years, is where's the money gone? How can it possibly have cost £100 billion? I want to know where every single solitary penny has gone, who's got it, what the state of their bank accounts were before it started, and what the state of their bank accounts are now. I want to know each and every single minister who has inadvertently benefited from this scheme.
Well, they've done a lot of just demolition. They've knocked down a lot of houses that people lived in. And I'm also, you asked me to keep an eye, we've got a sort of air shaft thing very near where I live along an existing railway line, which has not been closed. It's temporarily paused.
Right.
So I'm keeping an eye on that for you. But anyway, I thought maybe that would save the country a few billion if we just invest in a fleet of Rolls Royces. So may I broadcast on your behalf that anybody with a mad urge to go from Old Oak Common to Curzon Street we'll put forward a plan to the government to provide you with a chauffeur-driven limousine and, as Nick says, a sandwich and a cup of tea.
A cup of tea, yeah. It's a sandwich filling of your choice.
Yes, of your choice.
Exactly. All right, excellent work. Thanks a lot, Judy. Keep your eyes peeled.
You.
Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. Liz text, did you see this week that another British billionaire, our very own King Charles, has put in a total of 7 weeks of duties this year? You're kidding. 7 weeks? I didn't read that. Is that true? Is that true?
I don't know.
He doesn't know either. What are you asking us for? She says, King Charles has put in a total of 7 weeks of duties this year. I guess he feels comfortable turning up every now and then, knowing this crazy government has his back. It's true. 7 weeks. 7 weeks? God, I work harder than that. He has done 7 weeks of duties this year. How many weeks have we had so far this year?
Oh, God.
You mean you don't have that at your fingertips? God, you are terrible at this job. We've had about, 700 weeks so far this year, of which only 7 as our king put in as what might loosely be described as work, which is just glad-handing, genuflecting proles, isn't it? He goes. That's work, apparently. What an absolute shower. And there he is. I wonder if duties actually includes going up to the Scottish Games, the Highland Games, where he sits there with his knees sellotaped together so that we can't see up his, Don't let your knees go apart, Your Majesty.
Warning, warning.
Claire says, do you think it might be a Tory, the phone catastrophe that we had last night? Do you think it might be a Tory ploy to mess with your show? I think you should have a full inquiry, leave no stone unturned, and then never mention the matter. Yeah, we could say that lessons must be learned. Problem solved. 0345 6060 973, text 84850, email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC. It's 10:30, the news headlines with Tim Daly.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
What in places goes on inside that head of yours?
Lynn texts, at one time, owners of dogs, rather, had to own a licence for their dog. Sadly, some bright spark cancelled this policy. Did they? Who did that? I thought you had to... Well, I haven't actually thought about it for a long while, but last time I did think about it, you had to have a licence for your dog. Do you not have to have a licence for your dog anymore?
Looking now, finding out.
Yeah, we're finding that out right now. Stop bothering us. Trying to do a show here. She says if dogs had been licensed and chipped and non-compliance carried a heavy fine, it would deter the irresponsible from having any dog, let alone a violent dog. Well, really? Well, I'm not sure about that. Not entirely sure about that. Here, where did all yesterday's tweets and texts go? Did you disappear them all? Huh?
You've gone through them. There weren't very many. It looked like there were loads because the page spacing was weird, but you only actually had about 3 pages worth.
Oh, because it said I had like 17 pages worth.
Yeah, I know. Dog licenses abolished in 1987.
1987. Oh, right. Well, it's probably Jeremy Corbyn's fault. Weymouth. Hello, Barry.
Hello.
Barry.
I'm Barry. I live in... Actually, I've got a dog. Oh, God.
No kidding.
No, well, you've heard her. Can you hear me, yeah?
No.
I've taken you off speakerphone.
Oh, yes.
All right. She's a lovely dog. But anyway, that weren't the point. I used to work for Royal Mail.
There's a point? Go ahead.
Go on, sorry. I love your show, by the way.
Appreciate it.
No, I seriously do. I listen to you every
I appreciate
time
it.
you're on.
Every time I'm on.
Well,
You've got
you
no
only do
idea.
weekends.
Yes.
But I used to work for Royal Mail in Euston.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
31
Threaten
years. That's why I'm down in Portland now.
Yeah.
Right? I've got all me dosh off them. But this government, that's not the point.
There's a point?
There is a bloody big point.
Yes.
They knocked down one of the greatest little pubs. As you come out of Euston, Euston Station,
Mm-hmm.
there was a lovely little pub. And I don't know if they've been, get their compensation.
Well,
and not only that, houses along there were knocked down because they were on the wrong side.
You know, I should have got rid of him right at the beginning, and then I could have saved at least 3 or 4 minutes. I should always trust my instinct, my gut feeling. I don't know why I had him on so long, but, he started using builder's language, which is, it's okay if you're on TV, but you can't use it on the radio. Illegal. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why there's a difference between television and the radio, because I would imagine that most people who listen to the radio also watch TV, so they've heard the language on TV, but you can see somebody say it, you can't hear someone say it without the visuals, because that is verboten. I've no idea why. I've really got no clue as to why that rule exists, but them's the facts, Jack. Merthyr Tydfil, hello, Jeff.
Well, there you are, Nick.
Here I am.
I go so far. I tend to think to myself, why am I on this show? Anyway, look, you're all right up there in London. I've got to live in Wales.
Yes.
You would not believe what's going on down here with this 20-mile-an-hour thing. The Tories in Wales thought we're on a winner. This is what we're going to do. We're in general election mode now. Mm-hmm. We're going to hammer the Labour Party, etc., etc. Yeah. It's got as far as Westminster. You've got Penny Morbid, whatever her name is. She's having a go in Parliament. It's all Wales. Nick, it's not a blanket 20 mile an hour.
I know.
Not.
It's built-up areas, urban areas, where it is much safer to drive at 20 mile an hour than to blast through there at 30, trying to avoid people on scooters and bicycles and skateboards and people walking and other drivers. And 20 is fine.
And local authorities have the right to step in and say, OK, this can stay at 30 if it's safe.
Yeah.
And so right through this whole storm in a teacup, it is a storm in a teacup because it is just a manufactured thing to hammer the Labour Party.
Exactly.
And my God, everybody is falling for it.
I don't think that everybody is falling for it. I think it's just a vocal minority, and it's the same with pretty much everything that comes under the banner woke. It's a few number of people who are making a massive amount of noise, which makes you think that they are the majority, but they just aren't.
It was the same. It was the same when they renamed the Brecon Beacons Banai Brechiniog. It is just. It's all about nothing, and they are making a scene.
Yeah.
It drives me insane.
Well, they haven't got anything else. They can't go to the public on their record for anything. And so they're going to the public on what they think is going to win it for them, this phony war on woke. And what is woke? I mean, what's woke got to do with killing people by driving into them at 30 mile an hour when they wouldn't do it at 20? What the hell's that got to do with being woke, for crying out loud?
Woke. It's this whole thing. Everything that they want to do is fine, but if anybody opposes them, it's woke.
Yes.
I give up.
Yeah. No, don't give up, Jeff. Don't. That's exactly what they want. Do not give up.
No way.
Maintain the fight.
Up.
All right. Good man. All right. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. What's that word true on my screen? What does that mean?
Oh, I don't know why that's there.
Yeah, but you wrote it.
I'm trying to remember what that was in reference to.
Yeah, but whatever it was, it's true. I want you to write that down. Today's texts. Ahmed says, did you see the story about the London shopkeeper who stated that on one occasion he had 9 shoplifting incidents in one day? He says the thieves know that the police will never turn up, so there's not much he can do about it. I am disgusted that Jeremy Corbyn has done nothing to address this situation. Yeah, get Therese Cothin on the phone and she'll explain that everything that is wrong with this country is because Labour haven't fixed it over the last 13 years. Why hasn't the Labour Party fixed everything in this that is wrong with this country over the last 13 years? They've just given up. They just don't care anymore. I don't think they have actually given up. I think that they harbour the belief that they can win the next general election by trying to divide us and make us angry about stuff that's completely unimportant. And for a certain number of people, that will really work because a certain number of people actually really enjoy being angry. You know, some people throw themselves out of a plane with a parachute and other people go to see, a scary film, and some people ride roller coasters and so on to get that buzz. And some people get angry to get that buzz. And those are the people that the government are really focusing on. They want you to be angry about everything all the time. And it's angry about the 20 mile an hour, and it's angry about the invasion on the south coast, and it's angry about the Just Stop Oil people. And, you know, I mean, there's no end of things to be angry about. And pretty soon it'll be angry about single mothers. They're already going after the benefits cheats. You know, as though that's where the money is draining out of this country because people overestimate how many bedrooms they've got, for crying out loud. Or underestimate, or whatever it is. As opposed to the tens of billions of pounds that had disappeared under Fishy Sunak's watch. Which is apparently illegal to even say it now. You can't ask any questions about that now. All of that PPE, all of that money that's disappeared for PPE that didn't show up, and then, a company with a desk and a phone to their name that had just been invented out of nothing on that day, and suddenly one of their close personal friends in government gifted them a £100 million contract to provide something that they had no previous experience of. Nothing suspicious about that. It's now virtually, I mean, it might as well be illegal to even say that out loud. They've just written the whole thing off. They've instructed judges not to even investigate it anymore. The police can't investigate it because they're concentrating on the small stuff. What a country, eh? What a way to run a country.
Dreadful.
I am stunned. 0345 6060 973. Glasgow, Chrissy.
Yes, Nick.
Chrissy.
Hi. Hi, Nick. How are you?
All right, thanks.
Not choking on any glass tonight, I'm pleased to hear.
Not yet, no. There's still time.
No. Down to 10 shards a day, I was saying earlier on. I wanted to speak to you about voter apathy. I know it's not the most glamorous of subjects, but it's something that I know that really gets your goat. And whenever I hear you speaking about it on the show, because I'm a big fan every weekend,
thanks.
I find myself just in unison with you.
Right.
It drives me mad. And I've just had I got a letter instead for the electoral registration service, just to notify me about changes to the electoral register and everything. And my middle daughter has grown and flown fairly recently, but she has no intentions anytime soon. Like a lot of, very, very young people, kind of like, oh yeah, I'll get round to registering, and I didn't vote last time, Mum. Well, they know that boils my blood.
Yeah,
they know it.
I blame the parents.
Well, you've got a point there. No, it really boils my blood.
Yeah.
And I've talked to my eldest daughter about it, who feels just as passionately, and we have tried to do the why, drilling down into why this happens. And it's multifactorial, but society has really changed so much, I think, since the advent of the internet.
Yes.
So much has changed culturally. It's just exponentially disappeared off the scale in how we approach things, how we think about things, how we behave. And I think...
And what we're obsessed about.
Yes, and it's weaponised. So it's that double-edged sword that can be used for amazing things. But,
I bet your daughter is interested in some things. I bet she's interested in, the environment or equal rights, or there'll be something that you and I would describe as political that she would be interested in, but she doesn't associate that with party politics.
Well, it's funny you say that, Nick. I was having this almost imaginary argument when I was hoovering yesterday. I do that when I'm... I fight with invisible people,
Right.
And I thought to myself, if only everybody understood that politics affects everybody in every aspect of their life.
Yes.
A lot of people... I mean, I'm 48, and I remember all my life people were going about how boring politics was, and they didn't feel it had anything to do with them. And I yearn for the days when we get the politicians who took their office seriously.
Exactly. Wouldn't it be great if we had a little bit of boredom in politics, like Gordon Brown, for instance? When you hear him speak, it's like, my God, that's what a politician used to sound like, not these clowns that we got running the show at the moment.
Yeah.
Wait. What I wouldn't give for some eye-peckingly dull people right now, it would be fantastic. Yeah. But this is what's happening now. We're a society that doesn't think twice about picking up a phone to make a vote on Britain's Got Talent. But we can't go and vote for the people who are in charge of every aspect of our society. Yeah. And then if we don't go vote, we think we've somehow got the right to sit and moan and whinge and about...
as though the two things aren't connected.
Vote, don't whinge.
Exactly.
Yes, if you don't vote, don't whinge, because the votes count. And people complain about the government in power. You say, well, do you know how that happened?
Exactly.
Do you know how they got there?
It's because
it was through vote.
You morons didn't go out and vote them out. That's why.
Precisely. Yeah. And now that the government are pulling out all these horrible, underhanded tactics about,
voter
voting
ID.
ID. Yeah, good. Thanks very much, Republicans in America, for that little idea.
Exactly, yes. It's
they
always, what would Donald Trump do?
Exactly. So, I beseech anybody who's thinking about, why bother? You have to vote. Yeah. And it's not that principle about, people died for it and everything. Yeah, we know that. We know it's super important. We know the history.
Yeah, do it for selfish reasons.
Yeah, do it because you'd quite like your life to get a little bit better.
And see, this is what really rubs my fur up the wrong way. People will say, well, what difference would it make if we vote Labour or if we vote Conservative? It would make a massive amount of difference over a long period of time. And
yes.
the way I would describe it is there's two parallel lines. One is Conservatives and one is Labour. And they might be... in the short term, it might look as though those lines are actually parallel, but they would differentiate slightly. Even 1 degree of difference between them would make a huge difference over time.
Yes, exactly. And you've also mentioned in the past as well about proportional representation being, and it just seems so obvious.
Yeah. The system that we've got at the moment, as far as I'm aware, it's in Europe, it's us and Belarus. What lovely company we keep. Yeah.
And I bet Belarus is still a nicer place to be, and it probably doesn't rain as much as it does here in Glasgow. So,
Well, yeah, that is
Belarus
almost
is a bit
certainly
more
true.
attractive.
Yeah, I would put my money on that being true. All right, got to go. Thanks a lot, Chrissy.
No.
0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC.
This is LBC. This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Hot air. HOTAR.
Steph texts, I see Boris has waded into the XL bully dog debate, clutching his dog Dylan. In a Daily Mail video, he declared it's not the dog that's the problem, it's the owner. If that's the case, God help Dylan, says Steph. Well, quite. I wonder if he's house-trained. The dog, I mean. If there's a mess on the kitchen floor, I know who I'd blame.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Let's have, let's see now. Birmingham. Matt.
Oh, you're right, Nick.
Yeah, good, thanks.
Got two points. Your last caller, what a breath of fresh air. You know, she hit the nail on the head.
Right.
More parents. You and I, you were saying, need more parents to, encourage children at a young age. Yes, voting is a good idea. I've got a 5-year-old daughter, and the last time when I voted, she was excited. She was, and she's excited for the next one. Call it.
What's she excited about?
She just loves the fact that you get to vote, and you may make a change, make a positive change with society and that. But on my second point, you're wondering where most of the money's going at the moment for HS2.
Right.
I work in Hams Hall, Coleshill, near Birmingham, and there's a lot of bridges on the A38, Litchfield Road, around the area going up, but they're not connecting them at the moment. So they're building these bridges and these towers for the bridges to be put on.
Yeah.
So, but nothing's really getting done. They'll do one bit and they'll leave the area.
Well, that's what I would have expected. Yeah.
They've tore the landscape up. They've completely dug the landscape up so they can fill in more holes elsewhere. Okay, they're saving money there, by digging the ground up and moving it to another place. But, but I thought you'd just like to know where part of the money is actually going on.
Right, it's going for digging holes in one area and then filling in a hole with the...
Yeah, you should come down. You should come down and actually see, Nick.
I'm absolutely not going to do that. But thanks for the invite. All right, cheers, Matt. 0345 6060 973. Clive says, I want to talk about aliens. Did you see that NASA is saying that they cannot rule out the possibility that they have visited Earth? Have you ever seen a UFO? There are plenty of little people with big heads on Earth, so maybe they're already here.
They're little people. But it ain't like you think. It ain't leprechauns, don't you see? It's little men from Mars or somewhere. And it ain't a toadstool they're under. It's a spaceship.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, there was an incident that... Richard Branson's party out in the middle of nowhere, because I used to work at another place that was owned by Richard Branson, and he threw a party for staff, and I went out there, and you just walk 100 yards, and you're in the middle of nowhere, just fields. And me and a few people, we just left the party to go out and, lie on the ground and look at the stars, and there was all sorts of weird things that were happening in the sky that I could not explain, things that, I know it happened a long, long time ago, so... my memory may be a bit hazy, but I do remember thinking I have no idea what it is that I'm actually looking at. Now, I'm not saying that they were, visible spaceships, but they were as small as stars, but they weren't moving across the sky in straight lines, as a plane would. And neither were they helicopters because they were too high. So there was some bizarre stuff that was happening in the sky that night, but for which I have no explanation. And then when we got back to the party, somebody had blown up a hot air balloon in the shape of a UFO, which was pretty coincidental, I thought. Suspicious. 0345 6060 973. Dollar. Ellie.
Hi there, Nick. I'm Thanks very much for letting me on. I just thought, you put some really valuable information forward on the radio. As in, you were talking about last night, Tata Steel getting bribed or bailed out by this government of 500 million, I think you said.
500 million,
tonight, we're talking tonight about HS2 and 100 million that's cost.
No, wait. Not 100 million, 100 billion.
Billion. Jesus.
Yeah.
Also, last Sunday you were talking about the budget for science that has been lost due to Brexit and about the hundreds of millions that would have gone into that.
Yeah.
If you actually started to add up all of the sums of money that the Tories have misspent or given to their pals, excuse me, I'm wondering what the end result would be on that. Excuse me.
The end result would be that... Are you all right?
I'm sorry, I apologise. It makes you choke, though. It really does literally make you choke.
Right, literally.
What they've actually managed to get away with.
Yes, and this is what fries my brain, is that they have actually managed to get away with it, because there doesn't seem to be any interest of any kind with anybody either in or outside the government to actually pursue any of this stuff. People have got away with hundreds of millions of pounds for providing something that either did not arrive or didn't work if it did arrive, and they've just got away with it as though that's okay.
Yeah, but of course, have they in the long run, really? I mean, the penny's got to drop with people when it's so in your face. Yeah. And it happens day after day after day.
Exactly.
And it's only people like you and that you're really that are putting it across on LBC. Otherwise, we wouldn't really know, would we?
It doesn't matter whether it doesn't matter whether you know about it or not, Ellie. They have got away with it. Nobody is investigating it. There will be nothing that comes of it. They've walked away with it's probably the biggest heist in history. There can't be over the last few years. There cannot be any theft in history that has landed so many people with so much money. Like films starring George Clooney and Brad Pitt couldn't imagine getting away with so much money.
Yeah, I mean, it's beyond belief. It's like
it is
a class war that's turned into, right, let's get rich quick and forget about the masses, they don't count. We'll just make sure that we take care of our own, and then we can put in offshore bank accounts and sail off into the distance.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, our countries are a third world.
Yeah, literally sail off into the distance.
Yes.
But with some of the proceeds, buy a yacht and sail off into the distance, and then wave it and wave their largesse in our faces while they're doing it. I mean, it's just incredible.
People have got to get out and vote. They've got to get out, get real, and wake up and get out and vote and get rid of this lot. Because the country's in pieces anyway. The country's in pieces anyway.
Yeah, it's in
I
bits.
don't think it's ever been as bad.
I can't. In my memory, I don't recall a series of leaders being this bad. I mean, we're off the scale now. This is not Britain anymore. It's like some third world banana republic. Some sort of kleptocratic dictatorship we're running here. But it's Britain. It's just hard to believe what's happening here. Anyway, Ellie, chin up. It might never happen. Oh no, that's right. It already has. 0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Does anybody care what this guy thinks?
No!
Oh, hello.
Knew it was coming and it still made me laugh.
Oh, hello.
0345 6060 973. Tom says the government are banning XL bully breeds because they are dangerous, and I fully agree. However, does this mean that Bradman will be banned under the same rule? seems only fair and in the public's interest. Yes, correct, Amundo. Rachel says, I'm hoping that all will be restored to its normal glory tonight. We're referring to the phone catastrophe that we had last night. If you missed it, by the way, there is a podcast of last night's show up available on the World Wide Web. We put podcasts of the Friday and Saturday night shows on the internet. We take the news and the ads out. It takes less time to listen to. You'll use less electricity, and by that method, you'll be called an eco-terrorist. And woke to boot. She says, Rachel says, no glass in the esophagus, no coughing and spluttering, no talk radio stuff due to broken phones, etc., etc. It was very funny for us, but probably not for you. Yeah, I had a good time last night. It was amusing. Welcome back to normality / craziness. Wishing you the best. Thanks a lot, says Rachel. Thanks a lot, Rachel, says me to Rachel. It's clear enough as mud. The Highlands, Fiona.
Hi.
Fiona.
Big fan.
Thanks.
You're sounding much better as well, which is good.
Cheers, my dear.
I just wanted to say that up here in the Highlands, right at the top of Scotland, we have 20-mile-an-hour speed limits through the villages.
Oh, yeah.
To stop morons from speeding through them.
Morons, yeah.
Yes.
I took a holiday in the far, far north, right at the top of Scotland. The beaches there are amazing, aren't they?
They are.
Absolutely beautiful. No one on them, because it's freezing, blooming cold. But it's really,
People
really beautiful.
Still swim, though.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't get into...
I don't, no,
into
not anymore.
any body of water that is not surrounded by tiles. Yeah, I mean... When you see somebody in a river or in the sea, you just think, oh, come on, do you not get the news where you are? I mean, you just can't do it in this country. There's another thing you can't do in this country. Swim in a body of water. What the hell has happened here? It's just incredible. 13 years is all it took. They took a well-regulated, well-run economy, and they turned us into
Ian Jury was singing about it years ago.
What did he sing?
Was it Poo Poo in the Prawn, I think.
Well, what song was that?
That's what it's called.
Poo Poo in the Prawn?
I think that's what it's called.
Ian Jury?
Yeah.
Well, I was a big Ian Jury fan. I saw him quite a few times. I never heard him sing anything about Poo Poo in the Prawn.
Yeah.
Although that does sound like something that he would sing. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Good work. Thanks a lot, Fiona.
Okay.
Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, well, what's the big deal about driving at 20 mile an hour through a built-up area? Apart from the moron behind you who's going berserk and flashing their lights and wants to kill you for doing 20 in a 20 zone. They're going to have to find out some way of average speed cameraing everyone, everywhere. It's the only thing that people... Hang on, I'm going to cough again. I can't stop coughing. This has been for weeks now. Not that I'm complaining or anything.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
Yeah, but, what's the big deal? They're going to have to average speed camera everywhere. Because it's the only thing anybody pays any attention to. And people pay attention to the average speed cameras as though it is the word of God. And apart from that, nobody pays the slightest attention to any speed camera or any speed notification anywhere, do they? I mean, you try driving through a town at 20 and the people behind you just go mad, particularly if they're driving an Audi. I have noticed that. Seems to be an element. But, yeah, I don't get what the big problem is, apart from people like complaining about everything all the time. And I suspect that people's voices, the very few number of people who are complaining about this kind of stuff, their voices are being magnified by the oil and gas industry. That's the only explanation I can come up with, because people aren't really that animated and that furious about doing 20 through towns. They just aren't. And yet the papers, they just go on and on and on about it. So I do firmly believe that those people, the few people, their voices have been magnified by the people that are trying to sell us the petrol that we would be using less of if we did 20 mile an hour through an urban area. What's the big deal? Crying out loud. Like there aren't more important things to be obsessed about. 0345 6060 973. Plymouth. Hello, Mark.
Oh, hi, Nick.
Mark.
Yeah, I just wanted to raise a point that you said about Prince Charles earlier on working 7 weeks a year.
Yeah.
And often you get a lot of people, I've heard politicians say it, that are quite...
Your phone's cracking up there, Mark. Say it again.
Politicians often say they work long hours as well and all the rest of it. But they never talk about, if they're well, a lot of them are, and Prince Charles obviously is, everything's done for them as well. They never mention that. So they come home, they haven't got any cleaning, got no cooking, there's nothing.
Yes,
nothing.
Exactly.
I mean, can you imagine your life without any domestic duties and someone running around getting you everything else? It's a breeze. It's an absolute breeze.
It's a terrible line. Are we talking on a mobile phone?
Oh, yeah, I hate mobile phones.
God.
Is that better?
I don't know. We'll have to chat a while. But yeah, the Wills and what's her name?
Oh, yes.
Kate. Yeah.
Kate.
Wills and Whatsit just announced that they were going to have somebody to oversee all of their household staff, which numbered 60.
What?
60 staff those two have.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked out how many hours I spend weekly just cleaning and hoovering and cutting the grass and cleaning the car and taking my car. It's just
shopping.
It's lovely.
Yeah, doing
Lovely
everything
stuff
like that.
stuff.
Exactly right.
Yeah. And I think it was Therese Coffey was on about saying how many hours she works, and I thought, it's just they don't take that into account, and people often don't, and they might be in there for a long period of time. It's actually what they're actually doing. You try being on minimum wage for some people in a call centre. Every third call is someone giving you abuse.
That's right.
That's hard work.
Yes.
Having 0 hours contract.
Yeah, mind you, I mean, Therese Coffey, she must spend a lot of time making herself look nice.
Well, I think she'd be a good poster girl for Greg's. But but they never take that into account, and not knowing if you're going to work 3 days next week or not having any security of worrying about your pension. You can't afford to pay pension, not because they're from a wealthy background. It just really annoys me. When they go,
King Charles has got somebody that lops the top off his boiled egg, which has been pre-boiled to his precise specifications. It's
He's
ridiculous.
Probably got a royal wiper.
Oh, please. That's the last word we want to hear on that subject. Thanks a lot, Mark. It's a little bit too far, though. It's a little bit too carried away. But I bet he does. 0345 6060 973. Edward says, I'm against HS2. Not only is it a waste of money, what annoys me most is all of the mature trees in the housing stock which were destroyed in its path. Yeah, I'm concentrating on the money part. Why does everything cost so much money to build in this country compared with everywhere else? The Telegraph was actually printed a story that wasn't laugh out loud silly. Can you believe that?
No.
It was about this very subject. Last month, they said Britain is spending up to 8 times more on rail and road projects than its European neighbours.
What?
8 times more it costs in this country to build rail or road projects than it does in Europe. 8 times. This, they say, is because of mountains of red tape. That's the red tape that we were promised there wouldn't be any of if we voted to leave the European Union. A study by an organisation called Britain Remade found that compared to 7 other rich countries, the UK was spending at least double on building new railways and 1/10 more per mile of roads on average. Which begs the question, where's the money gone? I mean, this is a question that should be asked to every minister from now until the end of time. Or at least until the next general election. Where's the money gone? What have you done with the money? Where is it? I mean, red tape only adds so much to the cost of building things, and the red tape is usually there for a reason, to protect us poor dopes who pay taxes from getting stuffed by big business. The research examined more than 200 different projects in places like Denmark, France, Germany, Spain, Italy, Sweden and Norway. In the case of HS2, it found that Britain was spending 8.5 times more than comparable European projects, none of which stopped 6 miles from where they were supposed to go. Where's the money gone? 8.5 times more. Why? a bloke called Sam, who was head of policy at Britain Remade, said, when Britain builds infrastructure, whether it's railways, underground systems, trams or roads, we tend to pay more, a lot more, in some cases than other European countries. Why? Where's the money gone? In one example, Britain Remade, the organisation Britain Remade, examined how France had been able to build 21 new tram systems in the last quarter of a century. Britain's only completed a handful. On a cost basis, tramways in France ranged from as little as £29 million a mile, which sounds like a lot, but compare it to Britain's cheapest tram system, £66 million a mile. £29 million a mile in France, £66 million a mile in this country, rising to, get ready, sit down, grip onto something firm, £252 million a mile for Manchester's tram system. What? £252 million a mile. A recent extension to the Northern Line to Battersea cost £743 million a mile. Meanwhile, an 81-mile subway network in Madrid cost £68 million a mile. Now, the Northern Line extension to Battersea is very, very small. £743 million a mile compared to, in Madrid, £68 million a mile. So it's over 10 times as much. Where's the money gone? The first phase of HS2 is going to cost £396 million a mile. But that was based on, I think, it costing $36 billion. But it's actually going to cost $100 billion. So that figure's already out of date. But let's keep the lower figure. The first phase of HS2 is going to cost £396 million a mile. Meanwhile, a high-speed rail link between Paris and Strasbourg costs £31 million a mile. So it's over 10 times as expensive. And roads, the same. The Lower Thames Crossing Scheme, which aims to improve transport between Essex and Kent by travelling under the Thames, set to cost £9 billion or 700 million quid a mile. Despite 5 consultations and more than £250 million spent on a 63,000-page planning application, the scheme is yet to be granted consent. They've spent £250 million on something that they haven't even started yet. And this organisation, Britain Remade, said, in effect, £250 million has been spent so one branch of government can ask another branch of government for permission with no guarantee of success. Well, the whole world's gone insane. The A14 from Cambridge to Huntingdon cost £1.6 billion for 21 miles, whereas Norway's Ryfast and I don't know how to pronounce that, but the 2 tunnels in Norway, which were 14 miles long but burrowed 290 metres under the sea through solid rock, cost £700 million. £700 million for that. The A14 from Cambridge to Huntingdon cost £1.6 billion. Double. I mean, where's the money gone? How come it costs so much? Somebody's making cash hand over fist in this country, and it ain't me, and it's probably not you either. Where has the money gone? I think we're being ripped off.
Absolutely.
0345. Somebody needs to get a grip on it.
I'm gripping it.
Yeah, sure you are. 0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
This is LBC. Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
I really like you. Do you like me?
Rachel says, P.S. I think a garden bridge might have been rather lovely and much cheaper than the HS2 thing. A few plants, a couple of benches and a view of the polluted Thames. Wonderful. I was looking forward to that garden bridge. I thought that was a pretty good idea. That would have been an excellent addition to London's amusements. But I suppose we can't have nice things. Maidstone. Hello, Joan.
Hello there, Nick.
Joan.
I'm so delighted at the great royal welcome the Invicta Games gave to Prince Harry.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Get rid of the rest of the royals. Get rid of Rishi Sunak. Put this man in charge of the country. He's fearless. He just goes with his heart. Brilliant.
Yeah,
and the
I think he's
soldiers
done.
love him.
Yeah, quite right, for a very good reason. And the rest of the royal family were visible by their absence. Couldn't be bothered.
Yeah.
They were too busy having a nice time at the Highland Games.
Yeah, I mean,
which is
with Andrew, I'd love to see him facing the troops. I really would.
Yeah, I don't think it really reflects very well on the rest of the royal family that they have ignored the Invictus Games, despite the fact that King Charles is the titular head of our armed forces.
Yeah.
Where's he been?
Yeah, he couldn't care less.
No, not really.
And, this is the man, come the time, come the man. Prince Harry is it.
Yeah, even the
He
Daily
really
Mail
is.
was finding it difficult to write a negative thing about Prince Harry showing up at the Invictus Games. But I think they managed to because his wife, what's she called? Meghan. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, Meghan wrapped herself in the the Star Spangled Banner. Not the Star
She's
Spangled
lovely.
Banner. That's
I
a
really
tune.
like her. She stood by her
But
back.
she wrapped herself in the American flag, and
Yeah.
and so they sort of snidely put it across that they thought that it was in some way unpatriotic.
Yeah, but seriously though, Nick, this is the man we want in charge. Get rid of all the others. They just soak up all the money.
Well, it would be a lot cheaper, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Joan. Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, he's supposed to be the head of the armed forces, isn't he? King Charles. Where is he? Where's he been? He's just been having a nice time, making sure that his knees are stapled together so he can't see up his kilt at the Highland Games. Which, I mean, with the greatest respect, is not really as serious and important as an event as the Invictus Games. And whenever he shows up for, something ceremonial, he will be absolutely festooned with medals, will Charles. I mean, it'll be such a glittering array, you can barely see him behind this display of medals. It's so heavy that when he sits down, he virtually needs a crane to hoist him back up again. But is he at the Invictus Games?
No.
No. What an absolute shower. 0345 6060 973. Heston. Isaac.
Hello, Nick.
Isaac.
Hello. Right. HS2.
Yeah.
Now, I'm no expert, okay, but, I'm just a man with Google Maps in front of me, okay?
Yeah.
Right. But, from what I can see, what I can guess, much of it infrastructure for a possible high-speed or faster rail link between Birmingham and London already exists, right? Okay, let me run through it quickly, right? From Birmingham, I'm looking at there's Coventry, Rugby, Northampton. Oh damn! Oh my screen's gone blank. God, hang on. Rugby, Northampton, Bedford, and then from Bedford you go south, right, through Luton, okay, all the way through to St Pancras, and there you go.
No problemo. I just took a trip on the train from the north of Wales, which deviated to close to Birmingham and came all the way down to Euston. It took 2.5 hours. I mean, you really don't need to get from Birmingham to Euston any quicker than that, because it would have been quicker than 2.5 hours if I'd gone straight from Birmingham. So I mean, they've spent 100 billion, not million, billion, which is over half of the entire budget of the NHS on something that's going to end in Old Common. I can't even remember where it is now. Old Common something or other.
I agree. I mean, I've never heard of Old Common. I mean, I've lived in London now 40 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And I thought, old who?
Exactly.
Who's that?
Yeah. I actually can't remember what it's. I'm going to have to look it up. It's Old Common something or other. Where is it? It's Old Oak Common. I had never.
Yeah.
I've been in London for 45 years. I'd never heard of that before in my life, and neither will any business person who comes here from I mean, can you imagine coming here from France or Germany with a suitcase full of money, ready to spread it about the place, and you arrive in London, and they say, well, in order to get to the Northern Powerhouse, you're going to have to find some way of getting to Old Oak Common. I mean,
absolutely,
you just look blankly and turn around and leave, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's right. But to finish off quickly, I mean, I'm looking at Google Maps now, and I'm sure much of the infrastructure is already there. You know, Birmingham, Coventry, Northampton, Bedford. Go down to Luton, down to St Pancras. Yeah. There you go.
St Pancras is where it should have been, but they decided on Euston. I think they decided on Euston after they'd started to build the blooming thing, hadn't they? Because it should have been King's Cross, St Pancras. Of course it should, because that's where you get the train back to Europe.
And the other madness, right? The other madness is, right, I was looking at a map because I was brought up, in the Chiltern Hills. You know, I was brought up in Luton, okay? But Chiltern Hills go from Hitchin, Luton, all the way down to Oxfordshire. And they've had to drill a hole through the Chiltern Hills, to get this line connected to Birmingham. I thought, what?
There isn't enough money on Earth for them to be able to drill through a hill. Don't put any tasks in their way, Isaac. We can't afford it. All right, thanks a lot, mate. Got to go. 0345 6060 973. Chris says, where is Old Oak Common? Please don't shout at me as I live in Stubbington, near to Portsmouth, so my geography of London is limited. I know London Waterloo. Sorry if I'm being thick, says Chris. P.S. Wouldn't this money have been better spent opening a smaller closed branch lines? Reopening smaller closed branch lines across the UK. Yeah, well, that just makes sense, Chris, so that's out. Elaine says, a train to nowhere, almost a Talking Head track there. Talking Heads track there. Do I win a prize? Absolutely, Elaine. I'm going to stick my neck out, she says, and say, I don't think we do trains anywhere near as good as they do in Europe. I hope I don't get hate mail now for talking Britain down. Yeah, that's the other thing that the regime seems to have gotten away with, is if you criticise them for their unending grasping stupidity, then it is somehow talking Britain down. We're not talking Britain down, we're talking you down. 0345 6060 973. St Ives, Jay.
Hi, good evening. Hi, Nick. Yeah, I just remember when you mentioned A14. I broke down there when they were building a new one. Oh, yeah. The faces you would have seen, people behind me when I broke down. Anyway, it was horror. That was a long time ago. So basically, David Cameron, Boris Johnson, George Osborne, Kwasi Kwarteng, who gave it to us? Where did they come from? So they came from Eton School, right? Mm. So I'm thinking, as a nation, we should start a class action against Eton.
Yes.
What do you think? Because they gave us the horrible PMs and chancellors of Exchequer.
It's like one after the other.
I think this is nonsense.
Yeah, starting with him. Exactly.
So
the problem with this country is not people climbing out of dinghies; it's people climbing out of Eton.
Yes, and they're building another school somewhere for free of charge. You know, these free schools they're talking about recently. And secondly, I'm thinking of Rishi Sunak. He's a socialist at heart.
Yeah, right.
The reason being, you know why? Because at PMQs, Jeremy Corbyn lives rent-free in his head all the time, isn't it? So he's not charging him anything, and it's not fair. And I think he should start charging him a rent. Jeremy, every PMQ he mentions Jeremy Corbyn. Why is that? It's just an old joke. I mean, it doesn't. I don't like it anymore.
Yeah, it's a joke that's not funny anymore. Well, it never was funny in the first place. But they don't have anything else. And you can sense the desperation just by looking in his eyes. That poor little hurt puppy dog look that he's got in his eyes. I mean, it's just so pathetic. He looks like a puppy dog that's just made a mess on the kitchen floor and knows that he shouldn't have done that. Please don't be mean to me. That kind of look that he's got in his eyes. And he knows that he can't go to the country on the record of the Conservative Party over the last 13 years, because what have they done that's actually positive? Zero. I had an entire show a couple of weeks ago. I didn't intend to have the show about it, but I said, what has actually improved in the last 13 years? And nobody could think of a single thing, a single solitary thing. So they can't go on Law and Order or financial responsibility or any of the things that they would normally try to ingratiate themselves with the public on. So what else have they got? They got the war on woke, which is getting really old. And people aren't interested in that. They think, the Tories think that they can, get the country behind them by pointing at eco-zealots. But that's not who we are. So out of touch, it's staggering. But you can't tell them. I suppose they'll find out eventually.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
What's he got to be depressed about?
Have you not been listening? 0345 6060 973. Beverly, Mike.
Hi, Nick, yeah.
All right.
From quote, can you identify where this comes from? A man has to know his limitations.
Oh, this is a game. Okay.
No.
That's a quote, and I have to know where it comes from. Is it a film?
Yeah, man has to know his limitations.
Well, it sounds like something that... Well, see, now, I was going to say Clint Eastwood. Ask me another one now.
Absolutely. Now, next thing we've got. Right, what we've got at the moment is people like Boris Johnson.
Hang on a minute.
Brilliant.
Hang on. Wait. What's that? What's Clint Eastwood got to do with anything?
Well, it was Clint Eastwood that said that in the Dirty Harry series.
Right.
A man has to know his limitations.
Yeah. But what's that got to do with anything?
Right, well, look at Boris Johnson. Great cheerleader, credit where credit's due. PM, no chance.
No.
Look at Sunak. Okay? Great vulture capitalist, hedge fund manager. Yeah. PM, do me a favour. Right, Liz Truss, not even going to go there.
No.
These people do not understand what they're capable of doing. They've got ambitions absolutely way above their capabilities.
Yeah.
And we are being led by people who are there for their own aggrandizement, not for the benefit of the nation.
Yes.
It's absolutely...
It's infuriating is what it is.
It's infuriating.
It's exasperating. I feel that you are exasperated.
Yeah, and just to go back to Christine from Glasgow, she was great, and she said something. She said, "I beseech you," and it made me think back, because I'm probably of her age, and where politicians used to explain their policy, explain what they thought, and beseech you to vote for them.
Yeah.
And that was great. What we've got now is people who will say anything, do anything in order to try and grab the old vote.
Right. In other words, what would Donald Trump do?
Yeah. We're in this world now. How we get out of it, I don't know, Nick.
Well, just wait, Mike, because towards the next general election, assuming that we are allowed to have one, this is about to get much, much worse. They're going to try absolutely everything they can. They're going to pull every trick in the book and tricks that haven't even been invented yet in order to cling desperately onto power. I
agree. It's not going to get better, and the internet is one of the problems of this. And look what
exactly
Cambridge Analytica did with the Brexit situation. They analysed people down to individual profiles.
Yeah, and that was then. The technology has improved massively since then, so we ain't seen nothing yet.
No, can I do a sort of flippant question to you at the end?
Is this another game? Because I can't wait. Ask me another one now.
Sort of. You went to a party and you laid on your back and you looked up to the heavens and they were unexplained things.
Correct.
Yeah, and you went back to the party and they were inflating a hot air balloon in the shape of a UFO.
Yes.
Right. NASA and the Ministry of Defence have invested billions in figuring out UFOs. How the hell do you know what a UFO looks like?
That's a good point. Yes. That's a good point, yeah. Somebody needs to investigate me. All right. I've got one for you. How about this? Who said this?
Go on, then.
I know Kung Fu.
It sounds like Trump, but...
No. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. You failed this test. You could have won a car. All right. Better luck next time. Thanks a lot, mate. Ta-da. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, it just seems to be a catastrophic clown show, doesn't it? On that subject, a former special advisor to Kemi Badenoch slammed her former boss and the government's business strategy, saying that the Secretary of State and her department do not know nor really care about business issues. This is the Secretary of State for Business. Great, she's perfect for the job, Kemi Badenoch. I mean, we've had a queue of Tories that didn't have any idea what they were doing, and they managed to get right to the very top. Ain't that right, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
It's just been one totally hopeless, clueless dope after the next.
Absolutely.
One slimy truth mangler followed by another.
This government will have integrity,
yeah,
professionalism, and accountability
every level, yeah.
at every level.
Yeah, sure. Joanna Thomas, who worked for Kemi Badenoch for a year until recently at the Department for Business and Trade, describes ministers populating a personal address book as a hedge against election defeat, rather than engaging with serious issues. Yeah, exactly, monetising their position. And she slammed the business department's basic etiquette as lacking standards. She says, it should be a basic point of etiquette that there would be respect for chief executive officers' diaries. Events would not be cancelled last minute after months of planning, and if unavoidable, then followed up. She also criticised the lack of emotional intelligence in the business department's senior ranks. Of her former boss and the business department, she said, "It's not enough to keep admitting we don't know what business is about. It's novel, even charming at first, but the act wears thin if the fact is we really don't know what business is about." This is the Secretary of State for Business. The person who worked for her, called Joanna Thomas, she said, I found hard-working, impartial, bright and diligent people at the business department who care deeply about our country, people who need leadership and to be encouraged and allowed to think big, but also who need to be heard and valued for the expertise they bring. The allegations are the latest criticisms of senior ministers in government following accusations of bullying targeted at Dominic Dekje-Raab.
My name's Dominic Raab and I'm a Tory.
I totally believe you. While the Business and Trade Department refused to comment on the criticisms, officials pointed to recent announcements of major investment in the automotive and manufacturing sector, such as this week's announcement by BMW that it will remain in Oxfordshire with government support, as well as moves to protect jobs in the steel industry. Yeah, they're doing a great job. Yeah, we poor dopes who pay taxes are subsidising BMW now, one of the richest companies in the world, to the tune of £350 million. And on top of that, to one of the richest men who has ever lived, the owner of Tata Steel, we little people are gifting £500 million just so it'll be so good as to keep this business open here. But if you're a doctor and you don't fancy suffering another pay cut after 10 years of pay cuts, then very sorry, but there's no magic money tree for you, sunshine. You should have taken the precaution of being a billionaire, but you didn't, so you get nothing. 0345 6060 973. York. Hello, Jan.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
I'm great, mate.
Good. I've just got two questions for you.
Yeah.
When you see someone walking up Downing Street and they get to the door of number 10 and it opens magically at the right time?
Yeah.
How does that happen? Do you know?
Yes, well, I imagine that they get a notification that somebody has breached the gates at the head of Downing Street, and they're on their way. And so the person whose job it is to open... I imagine there's one person behind that door at all times, and they open and close it while remaining invisible to the cameras.
Yeah, there is. There's a guard there, 24 hours a day. And he has a screen which he's looking at, so he can see what's happening outside.
Right.
And when to open the door.
Yeah, the crowd of well-wishers at the end of the street.
But
There you go.
wouldn't it be funny if one day he got fed up and thought, oh, God, I've had enough of this. I'm going to keep him waiting.
Yes.
And he just didn't open the door.
Yeah, in the rain, preferably.
Yeah, that would be brilliant.
It would.
But, when I was looking this up, I saw two other nice, interesting things about it. Well, I thought there were. Did you know there were two doors? And they're changed every 6 months.
How do you mean?
Well, there's two doors.
Yeah.
And they change them every 6 months.
You mean there's two doors in the building, or they have a door that's that we see, and then there's another door that's just leaning against a wall somewhere?
Well, I don't know where they keep it, but they just change them every 6 months so that one can be painted.
You're joking.
So that it looks pristine all the time.
Well, it does look pristine. It also looks like it's made of metal to me.
It is made of metal.
Oh, right.
Used to be made of oak, but not anymore.
No, that's because of the popularity of the government. Yeah.
And did you know that
they want to keep well-wishers at bay?
Asquith had it painted dark green, not black.
Oh, yeah. Why is that?
Well, I don't know. I suppose he likes it green, not black.
Well, green is easier on the eye, which is why old blackboards used to be green. Did you know that?
I think I have heard that, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blackboards that used to have, it were grand when I were a lad. We didn't have those knobbo boards, Jan. We had blackboards with chalk, but they weren't black.
That's right, proper blackboards
Correct.
with chalk.
Yeah, and a duster.
That the teacher could throw at you.
Yes, exactly right. Now, that doesn't sound so bad, but to kids these days, they think, a rubber or a duster, big deal. But no, it was like it was sort of like a wodge of felt embedded in a brick of like a brick-sized piece of wood, wasn't it? Yeah. And if you weren't paying attention, they would launch this thing right at you, and even if it didn't hit you directly, the cloud of chalk dust that would come up from it would cover you from head to toe.
Yeah, I remember it well.
Yeah.
Definitely. But anyway, I thought that the door seemed to be more interesting than the people inside.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
You know.
And not as wooden.
What?
And not as wooden.
Not as wooden, that's right. And my second question, I'm sorry, I'm going back to last week when you said you executed a spider.
That may be true, yes.
I thought that you tried to collect them in a glass and chuck them outside.
It very much depends on the spider and how I am feeling at any given moment. Because if it looks as though it's going to escape and then secrete itself, under a cupboard or something like that, then in an emergency, then I have to take emergency action. But if it is possible to put a glass over it and then, do that little dance that you do by sliding a piece of card underneath the glass and tipping it upside down and then going to the door and chucking it out. And sometimes it stays in the glass, and other times, when you get to the door, it's not in the glass anymore. And you think, oh no, where is it?
Where is it?
Is it on me?
Well, I saw a big one last night, and I was just about to... I always keep a glass handy in spider season.
Yes.
And just about to catch it, and it must have seen me coming because it shot off under the sofa.
Yes.
And I haven't seen it since, so
right.
I'm a bit on edge. You know what I mean?
It's probably gone underneath the sofa to meet its mates, and it's planning its revenge, Jan.
Probably. That's why I'm on edge. I
don't want to freak you out.
I'm watching all over the place.
But you're in big danger. Huge.
I know.
Anyway, I don't want to talk about spiders again at this time of night. Certainly not. But
No, I'm sorry.
I appreciate your input there, Jan. I wish you all the best.
Leading Britain's conversation, Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Right, so what are we doing?
Given we are doing a radio show, but it does remind me that I do a podcast with Carol McGiffin.
Oh, right, yeah.
Now, she is a total kook, but I think you'll find that the podcast that we do is amusing. If you have an hour spare and you wish to be amused, then it'll be right up your alley. It's called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol, in which Carol McGiffin and I try to solve people's problems while laughing our faces off. Now, if you want us to have a bash at your issue, you must send it to the following address, nickandcarol@global.com, NICKANDCAROL @global.com, and prepare to be totally satisfied.
Oh, right, yeah.
Ask for it by name on an internet near you, what's your problem with Nick and Carol? There's almost 200 episodes up there.
What?
Yeah, I know. 200. It's amazing we've managed to do so many without killing each other. Obrien. Hey, Ranjit.
Hi. All right.
Ranjit.
Yeah, good. Listen, you know what? You're upsetting so many people, yeah?
Who, me?
Okay, yeah. Okay. You know, you're the people that love spiders, people that love Boris Johnson, people that love HS2. You know, when you get whacked, yeah? No, we're not even going to figure out which one of them whacked you. Yeah?
What are you talking about? Whacked? Well,
you know, what the mafia do.
You're talking like the mafia.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right, you know what? Okay, you know you're asking where this money's gone.
Yeah, where's the money gone?
Okay. Have you seen that film called A Time to Kill with Samuel L. Jackson? It's quite an old one.
A Time to Kill. What was that about?
It's about his daughter gets raped by some rednecks. Anyway, okay.
No, I haven't seen that. No.
Basically, he's in prison. It's in like Mississippi.
Well, don't tell us.
Okay, I'll just tell you one bit. He's in prison, and a priest comes up. He says, "Listen, we've raised a lot of money for you and your family while you're in prison." He says, "How much have you raised?" He says, $8,000. He says, "How much did my family get?" He goes, $500. He goes, "What happened to the $7,500?" He goes, "That was in administration costs."
Okay. Yeah, administration costs. Yeah, that sounds about right.
So, you know the Garden Bridge? Yeah, somebody mentioned it.
Yeah.
How much did that cost to build?
Oh, well, they didn't build it. I think it cost to just investigate the building of it, to note it down on a piece of paper. I think it cost, I don't know, 50 million, something like that.
There you are, right? You know, like the PPE scandal.
Yeah.
There was some guy up here in the Midlands. He was kicking up a fuss. He was saying, "You're buying it via Spain. Someone's going to make £28 million." And suddenly someone made 29 million and ended up in the House of Lords, allegedly.
Yeah.
I don't know what went on.
Well, I wouldn't me either, no.
Yeah. So what's happening is all these people, right, you know, when they're investigating something and they're going to have a meeting about a meeting, all that costs money, Nick.
Yeah.
Right? So,
but it doesn't cost £100 billion, surely not.
Nick,
I mean, how much do biscuits cost these days?
Listen, they're different biscuits to what you and I need, right?
High class biscuits.
They're going to be ordered through somebody else and then somebody else. And that means...
Everybody takes a cut, yeah.
Yeah. And then, Dominic Cummings, we've never mentioned him for a long time, yeah? Because he knows all the comings and goings that went on in Downing Street a few years ago, yeah?
He wants to start his own party. By the end of the year, he wants to start his own party to compete with the Conservatives, and I would encourage him to do that.
Yeah, right. You know, this going to the HS2, like in India, they changed a couple of names of some big cities, right? They changed from Bombay, they called it Mumbai, yeah? And whatever this Oaken, what's it called? Oaken something?
Old Oak Common, wherever that is.
Yeah, they can change its name to St. Pancras.
They could change its name to London, yeah. That's right.
Yeah, right. And then on the other end, right, where Curzon Street is, because I know, I used to be a lorry driver, so I know where that gentleman, he says he works in Hamsall near the M42. I know all the locations, right? And so does Dominic Cummings, yeah. Remember I told you you're going to be holding up a bridge and maybe me holding up the other side of that bridge?
Yes.
Yeah. So at the moment, they're just building the pillars and burying the dead bodies. But the thing is... Nick,
but what's that going to do with Dominic Cummings?
He's pointing out where the locations are for these bridges to be built. Right? And until he gets the number of bridges, that is when they're going to continue and join the dots up and get that link going up to Manchester.
Right. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, Rand. Have you been overdosing on chip fat fumes?
No. Listen, what I'm trying to say is money is being embezzled everywhere. You're talking about...
It seems to be, yeah.
Yeah. So we're having to get all our trams from Spain, here, there and everywhere, when we used to build fantastic things in this country.
Yeah. We don't build anything now apart from weapons of mass destruction. That's pretty much all we do.
Yeah, and then, like I see people, they go to me, we got no car industry. We have, but it don't belong to us.
No, that's right. We put bits of cars together for German and Japanese manufacturers. That's
and
about
Indians,
it.
And the Indians.
That's correct. Yeah, that's right.
And then soon, in a few years' time, when, other countries take over our health service, it might be free at the point of use. We'll have to prop that up as well. So we're going to be propping everything up.
It's called, they socialise the losses and privatise the profits. That seems to be where we are now.
Yeah, we're going to be propping everything up, and I just hope that I'm not on that list of where I'm going to be propping up a bridge because I'm very vocal about this.
Ranjit, you'll be first to go. Trust me.
No. Am I going to get whacked first then?
Yeah, Nick, at least the misery will... At least that will stop the misery.
The terror, somebody mentioned voter apathy, yeah? This is how the dinglings, still don't realise that they're being shafted. Now, that link to West Yorkshire with the HS2 to Manchester, that was where he broke the Red Wall. So where are these Red Wall people? Why aren't they saying anything now?
Yeah, hey, dingaling. Wake up, people. It's later than you think. Hey, Ranjit, I've got to go. Okay, thanks a lot. Cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. So it cost... the Garden Bridge cost between... what was that?
43 to 53 million pounds.
How do you know that off the top of your head?
Money.
How do you know that?
I had a little look on the internet.
Right, but no, you came up with £53 million, like almost straight away. Like you knew that already.
That's why they pay me the medium bucks.
He's on the medium bucks. I can only dream of being on the medium bucks. Ed texts, I think we should put Susan Hall on the HS2, send her to a destination unknown. Let's play safe and ask Sadiq Khan nicely if he would consider continuing as the Mayor of London and save us the expense of an election. Yeah, that's this Conservative mayoral candidate, Susan Hall. I might talk about her in a minute. God, the stuff that's happening in this country, you just wouldn't believe it. I'll sum it up for you. Exactly. Pat in Glasgow says, HS2. Now, I always thought this was a really stupid idea, but let me get this straight. The news is this fiasco will carry as many passengers as the train set I had on the living room carpet as a boy. Rishi Two finds trying out a stand-up routine. This must be another example of global Britain in action. The rest of the world must just sit there and stare at it at this point. Never mind, at least it's not raining. I hate to break the news to you, Pat, but it's going to be raining soon. Yeah. It's just about to get much, much worse. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global. Leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Would you mind telling me what this is all about?
Shut up.
Yeah, hey, Liz Truss, shut up. I can't believe that anybody would be remotely interested in sitting in a lecture and being talked to by Liz Truss.
Absolutely.
I mean, come on. Talk about front. She's got more front than Brighton. Pat in Glasgow said, oh no, I read that one. Sam says, how dare Jeremy Hunt say that he's not going to be giving us details of HS2 if it's ever going to be finished? It's our money, and he should have to tell us what he's going to be doing with it. How arrogant. It's about time politicians were reminded who pays their salaries. Us, the public, and they are our servants, no matter what party they work for. That's not the way they see it. They see it quite the other way around. We're here for their benefit, not the opposite. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
Liz Truss is going to be giving a speech. I mean, come on. Highgate, hello, Claire.
Oh, hi, Nick. Hi. Okay, Nick, you're going to have to forgive me. I'm going to ask you a question.
Yes.
And you're either going to say no, or you can say yes or no in private to your researcher, so I know what your answer is, so you don't have to say it on air.
Okay.
But this relates to you saying you never do homework.
Right.
Now, Nick, you are an intelligent man. Obviously, you're brilliant on this programme. You obviously do homework. You just won't admit to it. You obviously read. You obviously read books, and probably over Christmas you read books.
No.
So my question,
I don't. I read no end of stuff, but it's not books. I read news sites on the internet. I don't actually read books for pleasure. I keep meaning to, and I know it sounds stupid to say it, that I don't read books for pleasure, but I just don't.
Yeah, it's just that you could really stack up with some information that is absolutely up your street. I was talking to a researcher about a book I've just read called How Westminster Works, brackets, and Why It Doesn't, by Ian Dunt, who your researcher actually knows, apparently, as a friend. This is a brilliant book. And what Rory Stewart was saying today about ministers not knowing what they're doing, the whole first chapter of this book, it is a coruscating book, this. It's shocking. It makes you sort of say, oh my God, all the time. So the whole first chapter is about grayling, and the second chapter is all about how Westminster works in terms of politicians, MPs having no power and knowing nothing about anything and being basically disenfranchised, and how ministers are never experts in their field. They're just given handed briefs. You would get first of all, you would enjoy it because although it's a shocking read, it's scintillating, it's brilliantly well written.
I don't know. Secondly, it sounds like work.
Yeah.
It sounds like work to me.
Nick, come on, you're putting that on. Come on, you're just putting on the star with that. I don't believe you. I'm going to ask you to say to your researcher, can Claire in Highgate please send you my copy of this, which I've just read, for you for Christmas so you can read it, please. And we'll just tell your researcher so you don't have to lower your dignity by admitting anything on air.
Let me correct you on one thing. I don't have a researcher. There is no researcher on this show.
You're a producer.
I am the producer. I thought that was patently evident that there are no people working on this show.
Well, who's your glamorous assistant?
The phone op. He's the person that just answers. And when I say just,
really?
He just answers the phone and he puts the texts up for me to read. The Sunday show has a producer.
I see.
But that's the serious show.
All right. Well, then I'll ring you. I'll ring you tomorrow night.
Yeah. I'll be a completely different person tomorrow. Yeah.
All right then. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Claire.
Let your non-producer know, please. Thank you very much.
All right.
Bye.
Okay. Sounds like she's threatening me. She's threatening me she's threatening to send me a book. I didn't realise that books were still available. Does anybody read books anymore?
No.
I didn't think so. I'm writing a book. I'm writing a book. I've been writing it all year because, assuming that I do the A to Z at the end of the year, over the Christmas period, I've spent for quite a few years now, I've done the A to Z of the year. And it's a hoot and a half, and those shows fit perfectly between Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. It's the best idea I've ever had. We do a letter an hour, and people call in for things that pertain to that letter that have happened during the course of the year. And then I make a giant list, and then I put it up the internet as a book. And at the front of the book, over the last few years, I've decided to write a sort of a commentary about what's happened during the course of the year. And the one that I'm going to be putting in the book this year is much bigger. It's a much bigger deal than anything that I've written before, because I think I've got, a boatload of pages of the stupidest things that have happened to us this year. And that is going to be the book coming out, assuming that I do the A to Z over the Christmas period, at the beginning of the next year. Also assuming that we all live that long. At this rate, you can't be certain about anything. Jennifer texts, please stop calling them Rishi's priorities. When he made them, he called them pledges. He morphed them into priorities when it looked like he wasn't going to be able to achieve them. Don't fall for it. Is that right? At first he said pledges, and now it's all about parties.
It's the country's number one priority.
No, it isn't. He is disseminating misinformation about that. Liar! Yeah. Let's have Devon. Rose.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, she was a naughty girl telling you what to do, wasn't she?
I know.
The odd thing is that I've got a book to mention as well, but it didn't occur to me to tell you to read it. But no, it's really about this thing stimulated, I think, by the money that's going to these railways. It's such huge amounts. I mean, it must be companies that are friends of theirs, mustn't it? They're just charging whatever they want.
I think that perhaps the ministers have inadvertently benefited from from our largesse. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, and about it being our money, I don't think they're even pretending to think it's our money any longer. They just seem to feel they have a right to it.
There seems to be a sort of an end-of-term feeling about this government. They just don't care anymore. They've got away with absolutely everything up to this point, so they can't imagine the circumstance in which they will not continue to get away with it. If you steal a tin of baked beans from your local shop, then this government wants you to go to jail. If you steal £100 million, then this government wants you to go to the House of Lords.
Yes, I think that's absolutely right. Yes, I've forgotten what it was now. I thought was absolutely right that you said, oh dear. No, it just reminded me of, you see, I think we're effectively under an invasion because we have all been put to one side. We're just the natives, and they've basically taken the country for their own ends.
Yeah.
And it all started with Cameron, because I've never forgotten this. That phrase, a chilling phrase, we're going to shrink the state, not just now, but permanently. And everything's continued in the same vein, with galloping intensity, it occurred to me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. There's, like I said, it's like an end-of-term thing. It was almost like an end-of-the-world race to acquire as much as they possibly can before the end of times. Yeah. But it predated to Cameron, surely. Wasn't it Margaret Thatcher that started all of this?
Oh, well, I suppose so. I don't really go back that far. I just got interested when... I'd only really just started getting interested then. And then with Cameron in, I got this book by Polly Toynbee and somebody else, which they called Cameron's Coup. And it was really weird because... I was reading this book, starting it, and then I went to sleep. And when I woke up, I had this awful, I didn't know why, Nick, I had this awful feeling of dread.
Yeah.
That something catastrophic almost had happened, that nothing was the same, that I wasn't safe. And it was a little while before I thought, oh, it's a feeling as if we've been invaded. Already I felt that. It's like an army of occupation. It's that sense of being occupied.
Yes,
and
it is.
plundered.
Yeah.
Because everything's being... Have I just said everything's being destroyed? It is, though, isn't it?
It's kind of like a helpless
bit by
feeling.
bit.
Yeah, a helpless feeling that this
Yeah.
is never going to end. But don't feel like that, because it will.
Yes. And no, I don't think I am feeling like that, Nick, to be honest. It's just I want to... You know, I'm pinning down what it is. You know what I mean? In these different sort of ways.
But what they seem to be doing is, instead of improving their image, they seem to be getting worse. I mean, have you heard about this, the Conservative London mayoral candidate?
No. Tell me.
All right, I might get to that in a minute. But,
okay.
I mean,
But I
good
think
grief.
that-
They're not trying to improve their image any. They seem to be determined to scrape through the bottom of the barrel and start digging through the ground in order to find the next candidate for some ministerial position.
Oh, I see. Yeah, but I think what you said about they've got away with everything so easily.
Everything.
That they really don't care anymore, and it's nearly the end of term, and it's just sort of... Well, my phrasing, galloping intensity, it's got sort of even more gallopy. They don't care what we think of them. I mean, we are just the natives. They have no interest in the population whatsoever.
Nothing they have done has come with any consequences other than improving their own lives.
Yeah. And it's also clear to see, isn't it? That's what I don't get when people still, you can sort of say things about the government and to a person that you've just got chatting to, as I tend to do, and they'll just turn round to you and say, oh, but these people in boats, they're being given houses. I got that from a man, and he mined a key. He says, here, have a house.
Yeah.
They're saying to them. I suppose he meant the council. I mean, where do they get this rubbish? And yet we can see what's going on. Why can't they?
Well, because people are gullible and they are driven by hate. And if that's what drives you, then the government can provide that in large amounts, and that's pretty much all they have to. All they have to recommend themselves to the public now is to stir up hatred for those who are less fortunate than you.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. It is. It's so easy to do, isn't it?
It's a pretty old political trick, but it usually works to a certain extent anywhere it's ever been tried. It's just that most people in most political parties don't have the nerve or are shameless enough to try it.
Yes, I suppose so. Or perhaps they don't. They actually do want to be decent governors.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, there is.
I mean, there have been people like that, haven't there?
It sounds like a revolutionary concept to be decent in government, but I suppose it could happen. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's what I felt with Jeremy. You see, I thought. I mean, my sister was the same. She'll kill me if she hears this, but she went to something near where she lives that where he was going to be, and. She waited and waited, and he seemed to walk past her table, and then she tapped him on the back. She was determined to get a selfie, you see. She tapped him on the back, and he turned around, and she said, Jeremy, I love you, and I think you're wonderful, and so does my sister Rosie. And he went, oh, and put his arm round her, and they got this fantastic photograph. I mean, honestly, I must sound awfully silly telling that story. I hope she hasn't heard. But I thought it was lovely. I just thought she texted me and told me what she'd said.
I mean,
she's not the most open of people, my sister. You know?
Well, Uncle Jezza does elicit a certain emotional outpouring among a certain element. Yeah, that's right. And if he had become the Prime Minister, if young people had actually gone out and voted during the last the general election that was relevant, then he would have been the PM, and we probably would not be in the. I would imagine that at the very least, the NHS would not be in the state it is right now.
Certainly not. No, everything's it's like demolition, isn't it? It's like just raise this country to the ground.
Yeah.
It's gone.
The image that comes to my mind all the time, and I have said this quite a lot on this show, is that imagine a car And the Tories have descended on it like a pack of wild animals, and it's up on bricks now. They've nicked the wheels, they've stolen the steering wheel, and they've taken the seats. And just in case anybody comes back for the car and has the idea of putting it back together again, they poured salt in the petrol tank to make absolutely sure it won't work anymore.
Oh, that's a new touch. I haven't heard you say that before. Yeah, you're right. I know.
Kind of depressing, but just think, Rose, things can only get better.
Get better.
Exactly.
Yeah,
All right. Thanks a lot, Rose. Cheers, my dear.
Leading Britain's conversation, Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
So they opened their big mouths and out came talk. Talk.
So there's this Conservative London mayoral candidate. Just when you thought you'd heard everything, along comes this person. She liked tweets praising Enoch Powell and described Sadiq Khan as, quotes, our nipple-height mayor of Londonistan. She's called Susan Hall. She liked an image of Enoch Powell, infamous for his Rivers of Blood speech, on Twitter. Alongside the image are the words, it's never too late to save your country, which was a phrase once used on the website of the far-right British National Party. Hall liked a tweet posting the photo with the message, it's never too late to get London back.
What?
What's she talking about? It's never too late to get London back. What does that mean? What can possibly be positive about that? Susan Hall, a former Conservative councillor who backed Donald Trump, of course she did, and spoke of her joy at Liz Truss's mini-budget, was selected as the party's candidate for the mayoral race in July.
Absolutely.
Yeah. She was joyful at Liz Truss's mini-budget. The full tweet reads, please be upstanding for Councillor Susie, reminding our nipple-height mayor of Londonistan to stop trying to overturn Brexit and start doing his job. How's Brexit going, by the way?
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah. In another tweet praising her questioning of the London Mayor's violence against women and girls strategy, Hall liked a comment which said, quotes, well said, Susan, that Labour traitor rat likes that sort of thing. Holy moly. I mean, this is not a serious political party anymore. Susan Hall also liked a tweet, including the claim that Sadiq Khan is, quotes, begging for Londoners to do a Tower Hamlets postal vote for May next year. And we all know how that works, #fraud, appearing to suggest that Sadiq Khan would endorse electoral corruption. A spokesman for Susan Hall's campaign says, Susan engages with many people on Twitter without endorsing their views. Londoners want a mayor who listens to people and deals with the bread and butter issues that matter to them, making our streets safer and putting more money back in people's pockets. As mayor, Susan will deliver that. Well, perhaps we'll never know. Hall, a Brexiteer, has called for the UK to withdraw from the European Convention on Human Rights and backed the Home Secretary's description of small boats as an invasion. Her supporters describe her as a no-nonsense politician. Well, she's a Conservative politician. I'll sum up her position on everything. I mean, good grief. Just when you thought it couldn't possibly get any worse, it does. Bromley. Hello, Julie.
Oh, hi, Nick. Sorry.
Julie.
This tragic challenge that you were talking about a couple of weeks ago about...
Oh, name one good
years.
thing that's happened under the Conservative rule over the last 13 years, yeah.
I think I did think of one.
Oh.
But it actually sums up exactly what you've been saying, because I think the one thing they've really improved is their place of work. They've spent millions and millions on improving the Houses of Parliament, haven't they?
Well, they haven't started spending money yet. Hundreds of millions of pounds they're going to be spending on it. And I would imagine that they are going to be specifying the finest materials that man has ever seen, or woman for that matter.
Yeah, but it's a bit ironic that but when everything seems to be breaking down and falling apart, they're going to be sitting in a much better working environment.
Yes, total luxury. Yeah, that's right. There will be no amount of money they are not prepared to spend on themselves while telling us, poor dopes who pay taxes, that there is no money left.
And I think I heard a quote of about £1 billion, something like that.
Easily. Well, if they say it's going to be $1 billion, then let's assume it's going to be 10 billion, and it will arrive 10 years late.
But I had a thought. If they have to move out when, the asbestos and whatever has been taken out, and there's a nice vacant boat at the moment floating around.
That's right.
I think I would recommend that they were housed in there for a while.
That's a very good idea. Let's get them on that boat.
Yes.
Yeah, they would fit easily on there. Let's put them in 3-4 to a room.
It would save on costs because it's already been paid for by the taxpayer many times over, hasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, and it's just empty, so they can all go on there. But I have a funny feeling that they'll be a bit reluctant to be drinking any glasses of water.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good idea, Julie. Thanks for that.
All right, take
Cheers,
care.
my dear. Ta-da.
Bye-bye.
0345 6060 973. Catherine texts, I have no need to go from Old Oak Common to Curzon Street in Birmingham, but if you are offering a cup of tea and a sandwich in a chauffeur-driven limo, I might take you up on the offer. John says, if you're allowed to watch swearing on television but not allowed to listen to it on the radio, how does that work with blind people listening to the television? Well, that's a good point, John. Good point. It's illegal in this country for blind people to listen to swearing on the television. You cannot do that, says the government. You're going to have to self-regulate. Sanjay says, could you imagine having a job where you travel all over the world, have someone cook for you, have your clothes washed and ironed and ready for you when you need them, you're chauffeured around everywhere, you're waited on 24 hours a day. I could go on, and they call that work. The best thing after all that is that you get a 45% pay rise. Nice work if you can get it, says Sanjay. Yeah, nice work if you can get it, but you can't, so don't ask. Camden, hello, Claire.
Hi, Nick.
Claire.
This man who managed to hold all the titles of all the newspapers for 4 days.
Who?
The man who escaped from one prison and after that went into another. And in which prison are those who stole 32 plus billion pounds?
Yeah, they're in the House of Lords, that prison, where they can come and go freely, and their meals are subsidised by us poor dopes who pay taxes.
Is it not a crime to steal 32 billion pounds?
No, Claire. It is a crime to steal £32. It is not a crime to steal £32 billion.
I'll have to find 32 billion and then steal them.
Exactly. Yes, and then you too can sit in the House of Lords.
And also there is a mistake we have to correct.
An error?
The so-called, error probably. The so-called Brexit, it's not Brexit, it's treason. It's high treason.
Well, that's what I would call it, because if the people who were behind Brexit have left the country to pay less tax abroad, which is pretty treasonous in and of itself, but if they then spent vast amounts of money persuading the, let's be honest, the gullible, that it would be in their best interests to do something that is not in their interests, then that seems treasonous as well. But on top of that, they then bet against the economy of this country and then direct it as to do something that was going to benefit them personally and immediately in vast amounts. Now, I don't see which part of any of that is not treasonous. Why aren't these people in jail?
Yeah. But you said that the House of Lords is a jail, so they...
It's an ermine-lined jail. Very, very luxurious.
They're already in jail.
Yeah.
And there is another mistake which you made at the beginning of tonight's show.
Another mistake? Me?
Yeah. Because you said the beginning of the horrible HS2 it started by upgrading Euston Station.
Yeah.
And how is the murder of hundreds of trees an upgrade?
Well, that's an interesting way of putting it. I'm not sure what the answer to that is, other than if you continue to ask questions like that, Claire, then you're going to Rwanda. That's the law. All right, thanks a lot, Claire.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
What number are you calling from?
I'm glad you asked. It's 0345 6060 973. Darryl texts, credit where it's due, Nick. The government might not have managed to solve all of the PPE fraud, but they are addressing the real scourge of society, stopping all those nitrous oxide canisters littering our streets. I haven't seen many of those lately. Are the kids onto something else now? All those tiny little silver bottles, I have got no idea where they get them from. Or really what they do when they've got them. I mean, do they suck the juice straight out of the canister or what? Don't tell me. It seems a bit dispiriting, really. I mean, it were gone when I were a lad. We used to go out doing the disco dancing. Now kids all seem to want to just hang around in car parks, sucking gas out of tiny little canisters. It's a bit dispiriting, really. I think they should, raise their horizons a little bit. Do something a bit, more fulfilling with their lives. But I haven't seen many of them around. Maybe I just haven't been looking. Maybe the kids have been busy with other things, I've got absolutely no idea what that might be. Complaining. Oh, but Mum...
Whinging and whining and moaning.
That kind of thing. Tooting. Hello, Jan.
Oh, hi, Nick. Gosh, there's so many things going through my head while I've been waiting, but I haven't waited that long. But I think I was wondering about this. What happened to there's one.
Jan, take Jan.
The final oligarch.
Jan, take a breath.
Yeah.
No. Take a breath. Hold. No. Stop. Take a breath and hold it. Take a breath. In and out.
Yeah. So I'm picking up.
No.
I'm calm, Nick. No, I am calm now.
Is this you calm?
Yeah, I'm calm now.
Go ahead.
So, all this talk about these missing billions, and it's as if there's never going to be any accountability for it.
There won't be.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is what I'm saying. Yes, they have got away with it. Game over.
So, yeah, because I guess no government will put the spotlight on itself.
No.
Yeah, I was reading about... I just wondered, because I was wondering, like, those billionaires, those oligarchs, the Russian oligarchs, there's one left in England, and the case against him for sanctions, that started with Ukraine.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of oligarchs left in this country, and I think we've got one running the government right now.
This government will have integrity.
Yeah, that oligarch.
The Friedman, he's actually... He's taking them to court for
well, if that's the case, then we can't. We can't really talk about that. But yeah, no doubt.
But this cell, there's a cell that was done. That's what this is needed for the government.
A cell, yeah, that's what's needed with the government. A cell. I couldn't agree more.
No. I mean the NCA, the Combat Kleptocracy Cell, that was investigating them. But I just wonder what happened to all those assets that they had, billions of assets.
That's a good point. Yeah, whatever happened to all that stuff? Yeah, it just disappeared along with all the rest of the money.
Or is it earning interest somewhere that someone's siphoning off?
Yeah, well, I'm interested in where it's gone, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, that's what I'm just wondering. I mean, they're trying to do it with these oligarchs. I just wonder what they've done with all that. It's not all yachts and it's not all objects, is it? Like yachts and things like that.
Money.
They froze an account.
A lot of money, honey.
So is it earning interest for someone?
I don't know, Jan.
The government?
Yeah, not me, not you or anybody else that you or I know. That's for sure.
Well, it's all very disturbing, isn't it? Billions. How can so many billions?
How can so much money just disappear into thin air and nobody say anything about it? And they've actually made... I can't remember precisely what the judgment is, but I think that the government has insisted that judges now do not engage in investigation of these matters because finding out where the billions went in fraud is apparently not in the public interest.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, how dystopian does that sound? I mean, it does sound like something that you would hear in China or Russia, but it's actually happening in this country to us.
It's mind-boggling, really.
It is, yeah. Where has the billions of pounds gone? Don't ask any questions. It's not in the public interest.
It's going into trillions.
Well, I don't know what the difference between a billion and a trillion is. These are numbers that are so large I don't even know what they are anymore, but, yeah.
Nick, what worries me is this, who's monitoring what's being done, just to come back to that point, who's monitoring what's being done to these freezing of these assets of the oligarchs?
I don't know who's monitoring that, Jan, but I do know that you and I are being monitored right now, and if we don't straighten up and fly right, then we are on a one-way trip to Rwanda. Yeah,
better not stir up the hornet's nest.
Exactly right. Yeah, this is all going on your permanent record, by the way.
Don't.
You understand that, don't you?
My name.
I would draw all your curtains and don't answer the front door if I were you. Well, I wish you the best of luck, Jan. You're going to need it. All right.
Oh, don't, Nick. Don't scare me.
Keep your toothbrush on you at all times because they won't give you any notice. They'll just put a bag over your head and drag you out your front door. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Cheers, my dear. Don't want to frighten you or anything. 0345 6060 973. David texts, I've been watching Talk TV and GB News all day, and I'd just like to say that you are a woke, lefty, migrant-loving, communist traitor. If you and James O'Brien hate this country so much, why don't you move to North Korea? Well, that's just good advice. All in capital letters, by the way. Many of those words spelt wrong. And it's very difficult to tell tone, but I would imagine that he is just joking. But you just don't know. Can't tell. Pete says, are all the Lib Dems any good? Are the Lib Dems any good? Because there's no way I'm voting for either Labour or the clowns who are in charge now. Forgive me, I know nothing of politics, but I do know these guys can't be trusted. Well, why do you think that Labour can't be trusted? I'm a bit tired of... I'm not suggesting that you vote Labour. You vote any way you want. I'm not entirely decided that I'm going to vote Labour myself. I might do what I have done for a while now and vote for the groovy Greenies.
Yowza.
Yeah, the Greenies. I mean, they seem to have, a lot of positive policies about this and that and the other. But why do you suppose that things would not be better under a Labour administration? Because things were... quantifiably better under the previous Labour administration, under Tony Blair, and then subsequently Gordon Brown. So why do you imagine that it wouldn't be better in the future under a Labour administration? Apart from that Skier hasn't actually said much that's, that invigorating. Not a lot, not so far. But he doesn't want to frighten the horses. He doesn't want to see the lead that he has in the polls disappear by actually saying something substantive. Because that lead that he has in the polls right now has been accrued by not really saying anything at all. So I'd imagine that is the policy from now until the next election. Just don't do anything. Just stand there and watch the Tories fight it out amongst themselves. Because they are in danger, the Tories, of doing a Labour. By which I mean having infighting to the point that they wrestle each other to the ground and the opposition party just steps nimbly over their prone forms and takes the tape. That's normally what the Labour Party do. But this time around, it might actually be the Tories. I mean, Dominic Cummings is actually threatening to start a new party to take on the Tory party, and I would encourage him to do that. Please, I am begging you, go through with it. Don't just say it, do it. 0345 6060 973. Luton, Adam.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thanks.
You know that caller who just said a minute ago, you and James O'Brien? Like, you know how, I don't know if you've ever ridden a bus, because I know you're a metropolitan elite, but you know when you see two bus drivers of the same bus wave at each other, I don't know, it really, like, warms my heart.
Yes.
When you see, like, of the same bus but going the same.
Right.
Because, you know, James and Brian and you are, like, shift twins, but he does the day version of 10 to 1, and you do the night version. Are you two actually friends? Because it would just be really cool if you guys were actually, like, well, I know people already despise you equally because you guys are fair-minded, but are you actually friends? Because I always think, like, how does the LBC Christmas party go down? Because it's used to Sheila maybe in the middle, and the rest, I mean, how do you guys all get along? Or don't answer that.
Well,
Should we
no,
keep the mystery?
I can answer that. And the answer is we don't ever meet. Nobody in radio, you don't meet anybody else that's on the air because, I mean, I'm not here during the day and he's not here during the night. And even if I was following him during the day, I still wouldn't meet him because he would finish speaking at AM on the hour, and I would start speaking at 3 minutes past. So there wouldn't be any time for a chit chat.
But have you actually met? Because I feel like you'd actually get along, and people literally hate you both, so you would be united.
Yeah.
In like something, you'd actually have something to break the ice with if you don't know each other.
Well, we have met. Very briefly.
And your friends?
Well, no.
He asked eagerly.
No, we're not friends because we've never spent any time with each other.
Because I want to put, like, you know, like when they put Brad Pitt and Jennifer Lopez, they call them Bradifer or whatever. It'd be cool if we could come up with some amalgamation of usernames.
Yeah, please
and
don't
make
do
you like
that.
bros.
No, I'm begging you, Adam. Please don't do that.
And the other point I wanted to say.
Yes, and another thing.
I've been racking my brain to try and come up with a better name for Liz Truss's book, other than this 10 minutes to save the West or whatever she was thinking. And I was thinking Liz Truss, Secretary of Homeland Obscurity. Does that get on the...
No.
No?
No, and furthermore...
No. And then...
I can't think of any other way to say no other than no.
No. And my third point, if I can,
yeah.
Did you hear the Australian billionaire this week who
yes.
got in trouble for saying some really offensive things?
Yeah.
Basically being pro-serfdom.
That's right.
He wanted the feudal system back. And can I read you a quote of what he actually said? Or have you already read it out?
No,
already?
Go ahead, yeah.
Oi. We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump to 50%. Because arrogant workers aren't productive enough. We need to see pain in the economy.
Yeah.
We need to remind people that they work for the employer and not the other way around. And then he said governments are already kind of doing this. And I thought, Jesus, is this what they talk about when they're going for their, like, I don't know,
absolutely
human hunting on the weekend? It's just depressing.
Yes, human hunting.
Pain.
Yeah.
They want it.
Exactly, and they seem to be getting their way in large amounts. Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
We are going to be wearing potato sacks and like.
They want a return.
Bones in our hair.
They want a return to the workhouse. They want us to be begging for small change. They want us to be working 7 days a week to exhaustion and then die early and not be a burden. That is essentially what billionaires are interested in, increasing their wealth at the cost of everybody else. Because here's the thing. If you had £1 billion and you distributed it amongst the public, then don't ask me to do the maths, but so don't correct me on the maths, but let's say everybody would get £10. Now, for a billionaire, they would think, well, that's just a waste, because what's a poor person going to do with £10? And how is that going to benefit me? Not at all. And so rather than distribute £1 billion among everybody for the benefit of the whole country, they would much rather have the £1 billion and just give it to themselves. And by that method, they would make themselves happy. And to hell with everybody else. And that seems to be the way of the world. Because when and I think the guy's name is Gunnar or Gurner, right? Gurner. I tweeted a couple of things about him. And when his that outburst on video, which was caught on video, when it went viral, his response was to issue an apology and to say that he was completely incorrect about that and he doesn't actually believe it. Well, forgive me, but I find that hard to credit. He, when his announcements about wanting unemployment to increase by 50%.
50%, which is basically like Irish potato famine level. Okay.
No, I don't think he meant he wanted to increase employment to 50%.
Unemployment.
Unemployment, yeah. I think he wanted to increase the level by 50%. In other words, 50% more rather than half of all the workforce.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, that seems a bit extreme. But you know what? They're going to get their way because with artificial intelligence and the robotization of the workplace, people will be fired in large numbers. So that billionaire will actually get his way. People will be not arrogantly treating the work as something that they may or may not do, and they'll change their jobs if they don't get what they want and can work at home for a couple of days a week and expect, sick pay and all of the rest of it. That he is going to get his way, and it's going to happen much quicker than people realise. People are going to be fighting over minimum wage jobs, mostly on a moped, delivering food to people like that.
Well, the only joy I can find is even if I'm poor and he's a billionaire, his hairline is so far back it might as well be in the Old Testament. His forehead is so huge. Did you see it? He has all that money, and his hairline is like...
Well, it's because of the enormous size of his brain. It's actually...
The evil secrets he's keeping.
Pushed the hair out of his head, the size of his brain, or something like that. Adam, going to have to go. Thanks for that.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Come on, we're running late.
0345 6060 973. Sam texts, my friend was a nurse during COVID. They had a PPE delivery with sticky labels with use-by dates on them. But when they looked under the labels, they discovered another date which was out of date. Yeah, that sounds about right. Perfectly normal in a well-run country. Sam Batch, hello, John.
Hi, we've already got artificial intelligence in the government. It's called the government.
There's nothing intelligent about it.
Affirmative.
That's what I mean, it's artificial. The crooks, I remember, what's his name, Starmer saying, he's going to hunt down all the money
that
was wasted during COVID.
He won't.
He won't, will he?
He ain't going to do a thing. They've all gotten away with it. It's the biggest heist in history. I do believe that is true. There cannot be another, a larger amount of money that has disappeared so quickly and so completely. And it's, in an ordinary heist, the thieves would get into a car and they'd speed away as quickly as possible. In this particular heist, they're still standing around counting their money, and nobody's doing anything about it. The police have been called, but they are not coming.
And they're sitting in the House of Lords with them in coats on.
Yes.
Laughing their socks off.
Yeah.
And we sit there and watch them.
It's absolutely. If this has happened in France, this entire country would be on fire right now.
It would. They wouldn't take any of this nonsense.
They wouldn't. They absolutely wouldn't.
But we do, because we're used to it and we just lap it up.
we love a bit of it. Masochism. Can't get enough.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Cheers, John. 0345 6060 973. Now, how many of these have I got left? Oh, God. I'm never going to get through these. But I can try. I am trying.
Correct.
Luke says, Nick, would you consider last night's show as an abnormal show? Yes, I would, yeah. Last night's show was a phone-tastrophe. If you haven't heard it, then it is available as a podcast on the World Wide Web. Ask for Nick Abbot, the whole show podcast. It's only available on Global Player. It is available on Global Player. The plan is, the way we do it is we take the news and most of the ads out, mostly, which means it takes less time to listen to. You'll use less electricity, and the government will call you a woke, radical, tree-hugging eco-extremist. Rob texts, Nick, 20 mile an hour is the ideal speed in urban locations. It frees up road space and allows traffic to keep moving. Congestion is the main problem in towns and cities, and 20 mile an hour is the fairest way to ration road space. For example, it is a lot easier to join a road at a junction where traffic is moving at 20 mile an hour. It will shorten journey times, says Rob. I believe that is completely correct in every respect. But you can't make that argument for the very few number of people who are yelling loudly that we are restricting their ability to do whatever they want whenever they want to do it.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
Al says the problem with driving at 20 mile an hour is it's actually quite difficult to do. Cars are just not geared for it, and speed limiters don't work below 30. On a different subject, I've just watched Dirty Rotten Scoundrels on TV. It's brilliant, says Al. Actually, Al, doing 20 mile an hour is difficult, but only because the moron behind you has blown their top that they are having to do 20 mile an hour in a 20 mile an hour zone. And speed limiters do work below 30 mile an hour. The one on my car, you can set at 20. And I know that that's true because I had a police car tail me home almost the entire way home in a 20 mile an hour zone. And I thought, well, I'll just set the car at 20 mile an hour. And I'll take my foot off the accelerator and it'll do that continuously. And they can follow me from now until the end of time. And they're not going to catch me going over 20 mile an hour. And they did not get bored doing it either. I mean, it's quite disconcerting. Even though I ain't done nothing, I'm a good boy, I am. But they just did not give up. And I don't believe that they were actually going in my direction. I think they were just sitting behind me, hoping that I was going to make a big mistake, huge. But I didn't. Dave says, forget average speed cameras. All cars need to have is GPS trackers linked to a central system that monitors car speeds. Problem solved. I would be very surprised if that's not where we're going. Joanna says, haven't you noticed proper people travel on private jet? The little people can travel on trains to nowhere and die on smart motorways because billionaires don't need to travel on pleb routes, says Joanna.
The little people.
Not leprechauns. Dave says, old technology, HS2 was always going to be a waste of money when other countries are developing 3 times faster maglev trains. Well, I do believe that if they ever finish HS2, it will immediately be out-of-date technology, yeah. Sam says, I wish there was something we could do about people sitting right on your behind when driving at 30 mile an hour. It's really annoying. At 20 mile an hour, they'd be in my boot. And finally, I'll just pick one at random and hope that it's a good one. Chris says, I was listening to Theresa May earlier on Radio Blur. It pains me greatly to say this, as she is a Tory, but, and it's a great big wobbly but, I think she was the last normal Prime Minister that this country's had. Yes, she had lots of negatives, but at least she had a modicum of comprehension and acumen. Yeah, I mean, if you squinted, you might actually mistake her for somebody who was a decent human being. But since then, not much, eh?
Absolutely.
Jay.
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 Absolutely.
Jay.